Hey, we are live. It's Sunday. I believe it's February 19th if you're watching in the future on YouTube. Not that it matters because the channeled timeless readings will be for you when you see them on YouTube, whenever that is. So timestamps will be in the description for those if you'd like to find your reading or the full channel mode session or whatever else we do or whatever else I facilitate today. And beyond that, I'm just going to hang out as people show up and say hi to everybody and see where we go today. Hey, Andy Pandy Pie, how's it going? Hey, D, how are you doing? Fantastic, perfect. How's it get even better than that? Hey, Brandon, great to see you. Great to see you too. I know, I'm drinking G-Fit today. That live last night was amazing. I'm so glad to hear it, Andy Pandy Pie. I'm so glad to hear it. That's that or better. That's the aim. But it feels great to know I'm doing great work or facilitating great work. So there was in the membership for the gold level members, there was an exclusive membership live that I facilitated last night. And a lot of it was Q and Channeled A with pre-submitted questions. And then there was a full channel mode session for that at the end. And if you're part of the membership, it'll be there available now as you can replay it and watch it. And it should apply to you and help you then when you see it. Can't wait to finish watching the live replay, but pause to be here now. Awesome. Well, may it help you in whatever ways would be for that is good. And may this help in whatever ways would be for that is good for all of you. You know, whoever's showing up should be in the highest good. In a way with healthy boundaries, of course. For all of us, I guess. That would be for the highest good. How many times can I say for the highest good? Hey, Abundance Love Joy, good to see you here. It is funny though, because a lot of the people that were there last night, there are also a lot of you here right now, which is awesome. And that would be a highest and best for me to say about that. I'm also honored and so appreciate that you love spending so much time with me and my work. How's it get even better than that? Watched it today and totally resonated. Perfect, Soul Nurse. I'm so glad to hear it. So glad to hear it. And it's so cool to see so many of you both there and here, like I just said, I guess. All right. So I'm guessing what I'm hearing is we're probably gonna do the same thing we usually do today. Not probably, I didn't hear it probably, but so we will, I guess for anyone new here, what would be best to be said? We'll do a collective channel timeless reading in a second here. We'll do all the signs by Zodiac element, and then a full channel one session at the end, and we'll see what else we do or if I'm guided to do something different today. But actually, I'm gonna flip the camera. Beep, boop, bop. Please flip, friend. Okay, so that it's not mirrored. Hey, Tara, good to see you. Hey, Cowtippa, how's it going? I'm getting my electrolytes on today. So we're just going to start the collective reading because that's what I'm getting to do. So for anyone new, and for those familiar, you know the spiel. You probably know the spiel by heart now. You're probably just like, I know what he's about to say for the next 30 seconds. But I've been well. Thank you so much. I'm glad you've been amazing. Thank you, Deb. I'm glad you love the haircut. I appreciate that. I'm glad I caught you live. The vibes this week have been crazy. Yeah, I hear you on that. I should also get my electrolytes on. It's not a bad idea. Hey, Honeycomb Hideout, good to see ya. How does it get any better than everything right now? So I haven't started the reading yet. I'm about to start the reading. So, collective reading is meant to just be for whoever sees it, whenever they see it. So I'm going to be channeling my spirit guides, the angels, and source for you and working with my intuition on this just to see what would be for your highest good, what you need to hear, what's going to help you out for the highest good, and maybe just also to see what comes through on what's going on or what's coming up. Well, so not to limit any of it, but may the highest and best transpire. Let's start here. So first thing they're showing me are angels marching with trumpets around the walls of Jericho. If you'll remember that Bible story where I forget the exact specifics because I grew up Catholic and I don't really spend a lot of time thinking about Bible stories since then. But let me see what the message is for you. If you know that story, you know it. If not, then maybe Google it. But let's see what the message is for you here. So, if you remember that story, according to that story, God told this specific group of people to march around this city like 7 times and like blow trumpets, and then 7 days in a row. And on the 7th day, they blew the trumpets and all the walls fell down, and they were able to take the city. Because I guess Old Testament God was a warmonger, but that's a joke, by the way. And God is God, source is source. We don't need to project all over that and all that. And who says those stories in the Bible were true? But as far as what it means for you intuitively and channeled wise, let me see what they'd like to bring through for you on all that here. It's kind of about taking an unorthodox approach, was something I was hearing at first, to accomplish something, but I need to stay with it a second longer. In some ways, it's overcoming the odds in however you're divinely guided to do it, even if it's way different than everyone else is doing it, or it doesn't make much sense to you in the moment, because God, source, spirit, whatever your name, does have a plan for you. And it might look not literally but metaphorically a little bit like the Walls of Jericho story, where you're doing this weird thing and you're like, why am I doing this? Doesn't seem to be getting results. People are laughing at me. But then it takes off, or it works, or something happens for you. So really the message is to trust your gut right now and trust yourself in the choices you're making, even if it makes sense to very few other people. If it makes sense to God, that's kind of what matters. If it works, if it makes sense to you and God. And sometimes people will question everything until the results are there. People will question you, people will question your choices, people might judge you. They might even judge you if you have the results there. But it is what it is. That doesn't have to affect you. It definitely isn't and doesn't have to be more powerful than you or your choices or anything. It doesn't have to bring you down at all. But you're really being guided to trust yourself is the main message with this, first and foremost, and not judge yourself, and trust that even if your journey is taking a little bit longer to get somewhere, to achieve success or have a result you're seeking, you doing it the way you're guided to do it, or intuitively guided to do it, or the way God is guiding you to do it, is probably going to yield best results long term. Because sometimes people, you ever seen those cars that people make, but they kind of take a really crappy car body or normal car, and they remove the body, and then they sculpt their own super, it looks like a supercar on the outside because they put the body of a Ferrari on a Volvo or something, or on a station wagon. So it looks like they have this fancy car, but it's actually alive. Or maybe someone looks like they have this big fancy castle and it's made out of stone and it's solid, but it's made out of paper mache, and the rain comes and it all falls apart. So you are being guided to build something solid in your life, even if it takes more time than someone else's thing, or people are judging you for it, or something like that. So hopefully that makes sense for just certain things going on in your life. It could be about one thing. It could be about everything. It's going to be a little bit different for each of you in this crowd. But let me see what else he'd like to bring through for you with this. So another message for some of the others of you listening to this who weren't sure about that first part. And I'm getting it'll make sense in the future for most of the people in this crowd, at least 90%. But the second half to this message here with the walls is a lot of the things that have been withheld for you, such as the walls of Jericho, keeping the people out, in that story, are actually, for the highest good, going to be accessible to you soon, whether it's a treasure or something God told you you're supposed to have, or your intuition told you you're supposed to have, and it just hasn't been time yet. The time is soon is something I'm getting. So the walls in your way are going to crumble, or you're going to see a way around them, or in some way, shape, or form, you're going to be receiving or getting receiving what's yours, that's for the highest good for you to have, that hasn't been accessible. So that's actually really cool. And for some of you, you've been in training to have this. I feel that's kind of a hint to the members who were there for the live yesterday. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. And for others of you, you're just ready to have this and it's time. So that's cool. It's kind of the timer's that's been keeping you away from it's running out, and you've probably been patient, at least some of you. You've probably been diligent, and it's time. So that's cool. So let me see where they'd like to go to next. They're showing me a minivan here. And I'm not sure why they're showing this to me, but there's this podcast I was listening to, or rather my partner was playing it on a car ride, and it was a Dungeons and Dragons podcast, and I forget what it's called. Oh, I think it's called Dungeons and Daddies, and it's not like that. It's like, I forget, I don't know how much I need to explain this, but it's like 4 dads who, like, their kids get sucked into a D&D world, and then they get sucked into a D&D world, and they have to find their kids, and it's actually really kind of funny. Though yeah. They had like a minivan though, like in this, like, you know, D&D medieval-ish, like, fantasy style world, and everyone's like, what is that? So why is this showing up though as an intuitive visual for you guys right now here? It's also, again, about being unorthodox and trusting yourself and who you are, and not watering that down for the world or anyone else, because the world needs you. Even if you feel like a minivan or if you want to identify as a Ferrari or whatever else, like a car in like a medieval fantasy land, and you're so out of place and no one knows what's going on with you because you're you know, it just seems like you don't belong. Like, you actually do. Like, if you think of the story, in theory, those people, even though it seemed like they didn't belong in that D&D land, they actually did, for the sake of, I guess, for the sake of the story and just for the sake of whatever is going on, and just, they were supposed to be there, even if it seems strange, you know? So try not to judge yourself out of being you right now, even if a lot of people are judging you or are trying to get you to water yourself down, because they don't know you, they don't understand you, and you don't need to acquiesce, if that's the right word, or stand down for them. Again, like, I'll restate it. The world needs more you and more of you. And I'm going to borrow something I just heard, actually, from, I think it was Lee Harris I heard this from, where he was saying something along the lines of, it was like a channel he did. And it was like, you know, if you're someone who would like to come from love and harmony, for example, and it breaks your heart because you see all these other people not coming from that, and you're tempted to go that direction and be like them, even if it's like to try to punish them out of it. I don't know, not that you do that, but just as an example. Or you're just like, what's the point of being like this if everyone else is like this? It's like, well, if you become not love and harmony and go the way everyone else is going, then the world has less love and harmony in it because you're not choosing love and harmony. And like, you might be the difference maker, and not to put pressure on you, that you're being by being yourself and bringing what you're supposed to bring. So it's, again, one of those messages about not judging you and not watering yourself down for anyone or anything. Even if it's a hot person that you're trying to date or something like that, like, don't water yourself down for that. That might not be all of you, by the way, of course, but it's just not the right move. It just doesn't, you know, that's not what you're supposed to be. And there might be other hot people for you to date if this is resonating for you, or take it as a metaphor for something else that, you know, a hot person might represent, like a career or something you're trying to have or create in your world. Like, there might be other hot people for you that will get you, and you won't have to step yourself down for it. So don't limit you for one person or anything when you can be all of you and bring what you're supposed to bring to this world and make the difference and live the life you're supposed to live and have a great time. You know, at least hopefully. That's part of the aim, right? That or better. So let me see what they'd like to get to next here. It's, you know, there's a lot of encouragement with this today, it seems, with the past few messages, but going your own direction, in not going the direction of the crowd is really key right now, especially because new pathways are opening up for people soon. This month, like February, or it's timeless if you're watching on YouTube, but whenever you're watching it, like next couple months ahead, like the next year. And if you're doing your thing and going the direction you're called to go, and you're going to be more successful than trying to follow the crowd, because what the crowd doesn't realize is the way the crowd's going is going to stop working, or it already has, and they haven't got to like the thing that shows them it's not working anymore yet. It's kind of like they haven't hit the dead end that's shown up in that route that the crowd is following. And I was going to use the example of lemmings, like if they like follow all of them off the cliff, but I think I read somewhere that's like a myth, and like the directors for like a nature documentary like threw lemmings off a cliff to try and like prove that lemmings would throw out, you know, or to make it in the documentary that they would go off a cliff. So take this metaphorically and not literally, but don't be a lemming that goes off a cliff after all the other lemmings, or maybe take a different animal that actually does that as an example, if any of them do. Because now you have to go your own way and like forge that, and it's going to be worth it if you're forging your own path over following the crowd. And sometimes what we're intuitively guided to do like does line up or run parallel, depending on the person. Sometimes it does look like a normal thing-ish, or it looks like what a lot of other people are doing, whether it is or actually isn't, because sometimes looks can be deceiving with all that. That's different if you're just like, no, this is what's working, what I'm guided to do, I'm taking this job. Perfect. No sweats. But for some reason, what I'm hearing for this crowd is at a certain point, it's going to have to look different from everyone else's, or it can if you'd like it to. And I don't feel like this crowd, I don't feel like most of you are going to be running into a wall, if any of you. Maybe partially because you're hearing this message, or because you're already trusting your intuition and going the way God's guiding you to go, or you're already marching to the beat of your own drum, which again is a needed frequency right now, because people need new paths, people need new ways of doing things, and it can't just be how it has been, especially certain things in normie land stop working. Because again, consciousness is rising on the planet. Intuition is rising for people. If you want to use the term psychic highways, like that's rising for people. Like people are waking up more. So the way things have been working or are going to work is going to start changing. And you're already seeing this. You're already being guided in new directions. This is probably just your confirmation for many of you as well. So go your own way, march to the beat of your own drum. Don't follow the crowd. And there's that old quote, like, don't follow the crowd because they are lost. And I definitely feel like that, or something like that applies right now. So next thing they show me is a shovel. There's a snowman with like a blue scarf. There's someone shoveling snow in their they're in this like blue jacket. It's like puffy. They also have a scarf on that's plaid. But let me get them. They're wearing sunglasses for some reason, which is weird. But let me see what the message is with all this on the snow shoveling. Sometimes we are divinely guided to do things that aren't fun, or maybe we even abhor a little bit. Two things, I guess. One thing you might consider is maybe the reason it's not as fun is you have a projection on that thing that is not as fun, or you have this idea in your head or story that it's not fun and actually could be fun. So what else is possible, regarding certain things like that? But two, trust your intuition, even if it's something like that. It reminds me of when, let me see what they'd like to say. There was a time where I was like, you've probably heard the story if you've been following me for some time, but I was working nights at like Whole Foods. And for some reason, that's where I found myself for a while. And I'd be like, I don't like this. I think I'd like to work days instead or do something else. And my guys would be like, nope, just stick with it for a bit here. Just keep going. Trust us. And so I'd be like, okay. And, it was during COVID, so maybe that was keeping me from getting sick. And also there were some other things that popped up too. Because I was working at Whole Foods during the day at one point, and my sensitivity was really, really ramping, like energy awareness really ramping up as my gifts ramped up. And I was like, I don't know how I can do this, too much longer with how much I'm picking up, and just how people are just so afraid because of COVID and all this stuff is going on. And I'm just picking things up. And I was even picking up on the energy of that, of COVID being in the store once people started before people showed symptoms even. I was just like, I feel like it's in the store. I'm getting it's in the store. I know it's here. And I wasn't even necessarily afraid of it, but I was picking up on other people's stories. I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? And so I'm like, how am I going to be around people's energy? So I guess one of the things that manifested was me working at night. So I wasn't around so many people all the time. And I'm like, oh, okay. Because not that has to show up that way. There can be better ways things manifest too. And there was other things that worked for me that helped me make my next steps. I had a set schedule, so it was easier for me to build what I was doing with this around it, so I could eventually leave that position and do my own thing. And so it had its blessings with it too, even though there were things that sucked. But sometimes you just kind of have to do it. And I'm not saying you always have to do this, because what if there's a better way? But sometimes you just kind of have to embrace it, allow it, move through it, and eventually you find yourself on the other side in something better than ever before, potentially. So If you're guided to do anything you don't necessarily want to do, as long as it's for the highest good and it feels light, I'm like, okay, this is the way I'm going to do it. And it does feel like it's going to lead to good things. It just might not be what I desire for a little bit, ostensibly, because what if it does turn into something you desire, is better than other options you might have that you don't realize it is, then trust that, because it could be leading somewhere really good, or there could be a reason you're doing it. And it could even be something like working out, where you're like, I don't want to work out, but your guys are like, hey, work out. I'm not saying this has to be it, by the way. It's just an example. And you're like, oh, it sucks. But, after a few weeks of working out, like usually your body likes it. You start to enjoy it more. Usually. As long as you're not overdoing it, or you're kind of gauging where you're at with it and getting back in the groove with it, if that makes sense, or getting into the groove with it if you're newer to it. So just trust yourself. What you got to do is kind of the meat of what I've been getting, or a common thread running through a lot of the messages so far. Next thing they're showing me, and don't get into fear as I say this right away, like just hold on for a second while I say this. They're showing like this, you getting shattered and rebuilt. I feel like this already has happened for the majority of you, and like you're almost done being rebuilt. For others of you, you're going through this right now, and you don't need to be afraid because it's already happening, right? And it's actually gonna make things better than ever before, so just hang in there is what I'd say with this. Even if it's like subtle and you're just like, yeah, I feel that happening, but it's like not like I'm in physical turmoil or anything like that. Great. How's it get even better? I would definitely wish ease for you with all that. Because sometimes when we're broken apart to get put back together, the way I'm hearing it, it doesn't mean you have to go crazy. It doesn't mean you have to like lose your mind. It doesn't have to mean anything like super terrible, right? But metaphorically, hopefully you know what I'm talking about. There's a reason, that you're being rebuilt. For some reason, I'm hearing in God's image. I don't know. There's so much like God going on today with this message, which is funny. But so what does that mean? Just in a better way, in a way more you'd like to go and be, and in a way that's going to help you succeed and have more of what you'd like to have. And sometimes we don't realize that in the past, how we were potentially was in the way of what we desired. Or maybe that's you now. I'm not trying to put anything on you where it's like maybe someone really desires love, but they don't realize they push love away at every opportunity they get because they're traumatized from the past, and they have to rebuild that or examine those stories and restructure it in order to at least start allowing love in, or do something to rearrange the patterns. Not to freak you out and get you to wonder if you're doing that, but you don't know if you're doing that. And it's trust yourself. You don't have to freak out about it. But just as an example, you're being rebuilt so you can have what you desire, which is part of what's going on right now for this crowd, at least most of you. For others of you, again, you're just about to be rebuilt and things are going to take off for you really quickly. Kind of like, like certain cars or vehicles with gift shifting. Oh my God, gear shifting. And like you shift to first gear and it's like, woof, it like lurches forward really quickly. That's kind of what they're showing. It's like, whoop, it just like kicks off and you like do a wheelie and you're off to the races, I guess, but in a good way. It's not like destructive or anything like that. Next thing they're showing me is a tornado. They're also showing me Hercules, the cartoon, the Disney cartoon movie thing. So let me sit with it for a second here. So one of the messages for you is you're stronger than you think regarding this time period, and sometimes just the lie that we're not strong enough to handle something is the only thing that keeps us from handling something, is what I'm getting. Because if you were to truly examine your strength and let go of the stories, you'd be like, oh, I can handle it, I just don't like it, or something like that. So I'm not sure what's going on with y'all today or in general, but the other thing here is I feel like destruction is done. I mean, if you're going through something where you're being reconstructed and things are kind of happening, but even then what I'm hearing is like, there's a lot of destruction that's happened in the past that maybe you're afraid of happening again in the future, or like coming in now and destroying like the positive track you're on or good things you have going on. I don't necessarily get that's going to happen. What I'm getting is a lot of destruction that's happened in the past doesn't need to happen anymore. There are more positive ways things are going to be built or can be built for you in the future. So if any destruction does happen, like, okay, Be an allowance of that. It's leading somewhere. Not the end of the world, is what I'm getting. And it's helping you build a future. It's not out to get you or ruin your life. Actually, it's trying to do the opposite. It's getting you to have a better life. So keep that in mind. But anything else with this? Just like, I don't know. For some reason, certain amounts of destruction are done, if not all of them, for now. And you're on to a different phase here soon, or you're just seeing the last vestiges of it if it's happening now. So you don't have to go through as much anymore. And sometimes we go through phases collectively where destruction's a theme, and it just is, and it's destroying what's in the way of what we desire or what we'd like. So we don't have to judge destruction as bad. We can ask, like, where is this leading? Or is this leading to something I asked for? I've heard that from other people say things like that, but I'm going to borrow it because it could be true for you guys here. I've heard that more from like access consciousness people. They'd be like if something weird starts happening or something, you're like, oh, this is interesting. You might ask like, oh, is this what I asked for showing up in a way totally different than what I expected? And if you get like, yes, then you're like, oh, okay. It's just part of the way the universe is bringing this my way for some reason. So don't have to judge it. So they're saying they're done with the reading. I feel like there's like just a few more questions. Oh my God. Channel messages questions they'd like to bring through for you though. They were showing me like a chupacabra. And it's this message that fear is leaving. So if you have a lot of fear rising around this time period, it's just clearing. So you can get to truth with more ease now and in the future is what I'm getting. And I'm hearing a weird message like you don't need to trust fear. I think for some reason, what I'm hearing is one of the messages people are inundated with in society is like trust fear, trust fear, trust fear. It doesn't have to explicitly be those words, but we're kind of taught sometimes, not always, but to like just not do anything we're afraid of doing. Stay small, stay in your lane, don't rock the boat, be nice to your brother and sister, etc. Don't get angry, don't make changes, don't upset your father, things like that. But what we are being untaught fear right now by the divine, or at least this crowd is in some ways. And it's so that you can have the life you desire. Again, a lot of this seems to be about you having the life you desire and getting rid of things in the way of it. So if fear is rising, what is it trying to teach you? And it might just be trying to teach you not to listen to it, so you can have less fear in the future, or it's teaching you how to overcome it so you never have to be stopped by something like fear again, and you can be brave and have courage and win the battle and have what you desire. So I would be facing fear if it's coming up for you right now, even regarding like certain moves you're trying to make or maneuvers you're trying to make or things you're trying to start or things you'd like to say, it's going to help you a lot to overcome fear. And I'm also getting it doesn't need to be there. As many people have said before me and before I said this, which is going to be pretty similar, like fear served a purpose back when we were fighting pterodactyls or whatever. And I know like that might not archaeologically time period make sense, but it's kind of you get what I'm saying. Back when we had to contend with saber-toothed tigers and all that, maybe it made sense to have that. But we don't need it as much anymore in modern society and the way things are. It doesn't serve us to be wrapped up in the news with something that's happening, that may or may not even be true, the way they're spinning the tale on the news, or that doesn't really have, what's the best way to say this? Because I'm not saying don't have compassion and don't pay attention, but I'm also saying like, if you're getting wrapped up, as an example I've heard in the past, in a shark attack that you keep seeing in Australia, and you're in the US in like the freaking like Midwest or like Canada or something, and it's like there's no sharks around, and you're like, oh my God, these shark attacks, and you're just like, you're not even by the ocean, like it doesn't apply to you. And I guess I'll talk about it. I don't think it's as important. No, they're having me redirect, so don't worry about it too much. But sometimes things just look scarier than they are because of the news or because we have so much broadcast from all over that doesn't necessarily accurately reflect the risk of life, if that makes any sense. And it's important that you're kind of going off of what's there and what's true and not what's broadcast to us from people who have an agenda or people who have a reason to show you that thing that might get you to play small or operate out of fear or not rock the boat, if you know what I'm saying. So hope that helps, resonated, whatever's for you is good. We're gonna move to the fire signs in a second, but one thing I'll talk about as well, because we just talked about fear, because I heard it, I'm kind of they're kind of showing it to me, is I was listening to a channel Lee Harris did, and this like made things click into place. I think I said this in one of the recent lives, but they were talking about like if you're they were saying something like, some people might argue like, oh, if I don't have fear, how am I going to be kept safe? And they're like, well, we would argue that you could replace fear with instinct, and you could trust your instincts. And if I'm borrowing from access consciousness people a little bit too, they talk about like, yeah, use your awareness to know what's going on, or to know it's like, it's not light to go this direction, or it is light to go this direction, or it is light to go to this event, or it's not light to go to this event, or whatever, or trust your intuition and channeling if you do that. And like, you don't need to fear, because then you're aware and you're going based off of your knowing, which is going to steer you away from crappy things like that. So you don't need to be afraid at that point if you have that awareness, because you're going to be kept away from the things that you would need to be afraid of, to avoid, but you don't need that fear to be free from those things anymore. Does that make any sense? So I guess like you could say knowing and awareness are antidotes and maybe even replacements for that frequency of fear that you think keeps you safe, but does it actually? Because how many people have gotten to fear and then just gone the exact wrong direction into danger because they were afraid and they didn't like trust their knowing or intuition on a topic. So not to freak you out about that. I'm not trying to cause more like turmoil within you about like, I'm afraid of this and am I going the right way? Maybe come back to center and release a little bit and come back in a second when you feel a bit more clear. But my new car does that thing where it shifts gears and lurches forward. Now I know what it means. There you go. There's a sign for you. You're welcome, Rachel. So hope that was great or better. And I'm going to hang out for 1 second. We're going to start the fire signs pretty soon here. Lineup is, so we just did collective. It's fire, earth, air, water, and then full channel mode session probably. And then probably we'll end it after that. The live. We'll end this live after that. I'll answer this and then we'll move on. Desiree asks, what are my thoughts on shadow work? It depends on how you approach it and who you are. What's the best way to say it? I think some people have projections or judgments on shadow work, and that screws people up. Because some people might think or project or judge like, oh, shadow work means wallowing in my sorrow for a year, and then they don't really get better. They're just kind of like digging into their crap and just living in it. And they're thinking they're making headway, but they're just, sitting in their crap. So let me just say with what they'd like to say on it so it's helpful for you guys and what you guys need to hear for the highest good. Yes, it can be helpful, and it can be a paradigm that helps people work through their stuff and not like neglect doing that. But it kind of like we just talked about, some people focus on it so much that they forget about the joy in life and they forget why they're doing it, which is to get to a better place. And in some ways you could call shadow work in some way just like your self-healing or your self-work. And like just allowing yourself to be shown what needs to change if you ask the universe. And one of the helpful things I've heard about it when it comes to those things is just like maybe even just setting the intention, just be like, I'm open to healing what needs to be healed for the highest good. I'm open to doing my work, and universe, just show me what that is in the right time. And it'll just kind of come up at the right time to be examined or worked through, whether it's like judgments you have of others, or you might have tools or resources that the universe brings you to help work through things, whether it's a modality or something else. Because I think sometimes if we go like seeking it out, or like we go, depending on where you're at, if you know what your path is and what your process is, and you're like, no, I need to do this thing, this like energy healing self session, perfect. Like that's awesome. Or if there's like a course you're guided to do and you're like, this is going to help me with this trauma or this thing, like perfect, like do it. Like that's awesome. But it was something that Lee Harris, I don't know why I'm borrowing so much from other people today with what I'm referring to, but it's what I'm being guided to do. So whatever. And it was something he said, like, there's no reason to like seek out a bad day. There's no reason to talk yourself out of having a good day. And it's not saying we avoid our work when it comes up. That's exactly the opposite of what's saying, because it's like we'll have a bad day when it needs to find us for us to work through something, if you want to judge things as good or bad, or good days or bad days or whatever. The other thing I'll say about that is, what else would be for that? It's good to be said about it. If you're focusing on improving as a person and you're willing to see your stuff, you're going to be doing shadow work automatically without making it a big focus that you're focused on forever, and that's like all you do, and then you're sad always. Does that make any sense? So I would see it as a helpful tool, or maybe a resource you could look at when you feel like you need it. But I'd be focused on self-improvement and how can I get better, and what would help me improve as a person, what would help me get to go where I need to go. Because another thing they're kind of reminding me of is sometimes when we manifest something, or we're like, I'd love to go this direction, depending on where you're at, sometimes, and it doesn't have to work this way, because I know people it doesn't matter. The things that are in the way of you getting there are going to come up to be worked through or released or whatever, whether you haven't ease in working through that or whatever your process is. So sometimes you just creating the life you'd like to live is you doing your shadow work, or if you want to call it that. The other thing I'll say that's going to be more me actually is when you think of the definition of shadow work, and because it came from Carl Jung, I think, and all that he said is just aspects of ourselves that we've neglected or just like denied. And like, when you think of like a lot of the people, at least to me, when I see people talking about shadow work, like on TikTok or other places, they seem to kind of go a different angle with it or go a lot deeper with that. Cause like to me, that's very simple and that's very psychological. And that has nothing to do with a lot of the, it seems, stuff that a lot of these people over here seem to be talking about with it. If I'm going to be really like just straightforward with you from what I've observed, at least my mind on it. Because like, if you look at the definition of Google, like everything everyone's saying that's like, woo, and uppity, and it's like not what he said originally. And like, why are we turning it into something that is not, is my other thing I'll say on it. So hopefully that answers your question on my thoughts on shadow work. And hopefully that's helpful for you guys as well. And if I pissed off any shadow work people, I'm not sorry, but I wish you well. And maybe someone else has an understanding on it that's better. It's I don't know. To me, it almost seems like it's a judgment in a way, but that's just me. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, but I'm loving the I'm not sorry, Brandon. Thank you. Ironically, maybe it's taken some work to get here, but I feel a lot better about it because I think one of the things I'm choosing, or I'm putting it out there to choose, is I'm done being nice. And I feel like I've done my best to not be nice in the past, because like people will just walk all over you, and I'm done like acquiescing to people who like project and judge all over my work and everything I say, because they're not taking a second to reflect and be like, oh, is what he's saying true? Oh, is my stance on this something I can examine and rework? Because if they're not willing, if they're just going to go into like fight mode and defense mode and like, yeah, because I said something, and they're not going to be like, oh, at least be like, it's interesting he said that. I don't know if I agree, but I'm going to go deeper in this and see what feels true to me. Because I mean, my intention always is to channel through, intuit, speak truth to the best of my ability, fully for the highest good. I would like to be completely free from screwing anyone up, or just projecting or sharing any projections or judgments. I just would like to bring through what's for the highest good for me to bring through. But if people are just going to go and fight, like that's their stuff and that's their story, and I don't need to appease them anymore. And I'm just so tired of trying to tiptoe around people's feelings and stuff with it, that it's them, and they can just be upset if they're upset, and it's okay. And also, doing that, I can show up more authentically and genuinely, and be genuinely and authentically kind, and be myself, and speak the truth. That's probably going to help people more than trying to walk around eggshells and meander through that path. It's just probably going to do more good in the long run, depending on what I'm guided to do, to speak the truth and be authentic and genuine and real, or true, and not nice. as well. And, the thing about, I've been thinking about this as well. It's kind of sorry, I'm segueing into something, or not sorry, but because this has just been coming up in my mind a lot for some reason. So I guess it's just something I meant to talk about or to eventually. Is when you're kind and genuine and you have boundaries, especially when you're divinely guided, you can be kind and it's legit because you're not just like people pleasing to like stay safe, quote unquote. Excuse me. If that makes sense to you guys, because then it can show up and like I actually mean it when I'm kind. I'm not just like trying to avoid someone yelling at me or something like that, or avoid hurting someone's feelings or something like that. Yeah. So, and if you think about it too, I don't think I'll say that. You could consider that perhaps it is a little bit, and I hesitate to say this because it sounds like a judgment, but I don't mean it as a judgment. It's a little bit childish to just lash out at someone because they're saying something you don't agree with. And, I've had that come up in me before, so I'm not saying you're bad or wrong if it's happened. It's something to look at and be like, oh, interesting that this is, what's this doing here? That this thing coming up in me. But, yeah, you don't have to let that run the show for you anymore. Hey, Moon, good to see you. So I kind of was started on a track and then I got segued away, but I was trying to say like when you're authentic, you can be authentically kind. And when you have intuition, you can set boundaries and say no to the people who would take advantage of that. And you're not just being pulled around by people as well. Cause like, I think sometimes people see kindness and they're like, oh, I can take it. But if you're intuitive and you're like, no, then you could just say no when it's time to say no. Or if you have healthy boundaries, you can be like, no, it's too much. Nope. I'll be kind because I'm choosing to, and that's how I'd like to be, but I'm not going to be taken for a ride by the people who see that as weakness when it's not weakness. It's actually more of a strength. I think we also get carried away. Yeah, it happens. I like that outlook. Good. I hope it's helpful for you. Totally tea time, VA. Totally. Ooh, thank you for saying this. Crystal Kelly Music says, I love seeing you in your power. It gives permission for those who struggle with it too. Perfect. Thanks for saying that, because that rings true. I'm getting the chills as you say that and as I read that. Because yeah, totally. I didn't consider that, but that makes total sense. Totally, Toady. Kindness from a place of love instead of fear. I don't like the Dark Night of the Soul either. I hear ya. How's it get any better? What else is possible? I'm gonna mention this because I feel like it's gonna be helpful for some of you guys, if not all of you, and then we'll start the fire signs reading in a second, which is because it's kind of coming up. Here's the thing. If it's showing up, okay, we can be an allowance of it. But what are the spiritual things we've been taught have to be a thing that don't actually have to be a thing, but since we bought it as a thing, it shows up as a thing, and maybe we can choose something else. And I'm going to say it, and I'm going to have like a full disclosure moment where, sometimes I'll be like, is karma actually the truth of how things work? But I might also facilitate a reading and get channel messages for someone about karma because that's what they need to hear, or maybe that's legit for that person, for their reality or however it works. And I don't know, and I'm not saying it does or doesn't exist. This is more exploration. I'm going to be really legit with you. I'm not trying to say this is how it works or this is not how it works. But if you think of things like even like grounding, and I get channel messages from people on grounding all the time, so bear with me, where it's like, okay, does grounding have to be a thing, or is this just like a belief or something we subscribed to and we created as a thing through like buying that we need to do it? And like how much of a thing does it have to be? Is there something else that's possible? And I say that, I'm not saying, because, grounding's helpful for me sometimes. Grounding's helpful for people I channel for sometimes. Grounding is something I talk about in classes I facilitate still. But I'm saying this because I'd like you to have the freedom to ask what's possible and maybe find something greater if there is something better that can be created than what we've been sold. Because I think those are great starting places that gets us going, that gives a good framework and tools to work with certain common ideas like that. But at the same time, I'm like, does it have to be that way, or is there a better way it can show up? So, yeah, so hopefully you understand where I'm coming from when I say all that. universe is littered with infinite possibilities. I love that. Hey, you're here for the fire sign reading. Let's do it. Okay, so I've heard it nonstop. People always telling me to ground. Yeah, and I think it's good to check in with yourself and be like, is this true for me? Is this going to be helpful for me? Or is there something else that's possible for me that's going to work for me better? I don't think there's anything wrong with grounding. Again, like I ground. I ask if I need grounding for myself with my spirit team and my intuition. But it's more just an idea of, is there something better that's possible? It's more playing with the possibilities than just buying it outright, I guess. So hopefully that makes sense. So we're going to start the fire signs reading. Is there anything else we need to talk to about with this before we go forward here? We're just going to start. So if you have a fire sign, sun, moon, or... okay, I just want to say this one more time just in case, because it's coming up to be said, is just because I said that doesn't mean if you still feel like you need grounding, like keep trying it, keep doing what you need to do. Again, like you could be an allowance of what's showing up, but it's like, I'm trying to get you guys to maybe play with it a bit more, or putting it out there that it can be played with a little bit more than just, we got to be locked into the, light worker paradigm that everyone's sold to us, I guess is the way I'm getting to say it. So if you have a fire sign, sun, moon, or rising, I'm going to try and move it so you can see the sign. That's fine. If you have a fire sign, sun, moon, or rising, this is meant to be for you when you see it. I'm going to channel my spirit guides, the angels, and source for you on this and bring through whatever would be for us good, whatever would be helpful. That's my intention. What's good? My intention is that is fully accurate. It brings you what you need to hear, what's going to help you right now. So let's see what would be highest and best to come through for the fire sign, sun, moon, or rising today, or for you when you see it if you're watching on YouTube here. So funny, we just talked about grounding, and they're showing this like, I know some people were talking about forests and stuff as well. They're showing me a forest. They're showing me like a native individual with like a spear running through the forest. So let me see what this is about here. And so kind of similar to what we just talked about, this is about leaping into higher possibilities and literally what we just talked about, not buying other people's stories about what's possible for you and limiting what can show up for you. And this, I'm going to have to be a little bit careful with this one because there's kind of a dance we can do with this where we kind of get the highest and best outcomes for all things and tools involved, where even if it's like you went to an astrologer and they said, oh, you're going to have a rough life for the next 10 years. It's like the question you can ask yourself is like, is that true? Like, does my intuition say that's true as well? And if it is what it is. But if you're kind of like, that doesn't feel totally true to me, what else could that be referring to? Because, maybe that astrologer had a bad day is something I'm hearing. Or, as a reader, and I'm sure if you guys can relate, like you get to a certain point where this isn't a problem anymore. Well, maybe it never was a problem, depending on where you're at. Like, what I'm hearing to say to you guys, though, and I'd like to be free from this myself always, is my ask that maybe they were just projecting, they were going through something, which is not most readers, by the way. Some people do it. The good ones or better don't. At least So let me see what they'd like to say beyond that here. Because it's meant to unlock higher possibilities, just kind of questioning things right now, like we were just talking about, and not just buying it as truth the second someone says it. Be like, oh, is that true? Is there something better that's possible for me? And I feel like that's going to unlock a lot for you. Even like stories about trauma, even stories about like how healing works, even stories about like what we have to go through to heal. It's kind of like, is there something better that we can manifest or create or call in from the universe? And if it has to show up a certain way, okay. If there's a better way, awesome. Let's bring that in. If you know what I'm kind of saying with that, because it's kind of like, this native person in this visual hasn't bought any stories, so he's free. And he's like free to create like what he dreams of, or, it's showing up as a male in this intuitive visual, but it doesn't matter what gender you are at all, because it's representing kind of what they're aiming to show you with this. So how can you free yourself from the stories you've bought in the past that you no longer have to buy, I guess is the message. So that's fascinating here. You know, we did talk about grounding. Getting grounded could be helpful for some of you if that resonates as true for you. For others of you, I do feel like you are manifesting something else that's going to work better that might be akin to grounding, but it's like a different way of doing it that works better and is not the story you've been sold. So that's really cool. How's it get any better than that? Next thing they're showing me is this robot. It looks like a spider robot for some reason. It has like these 8 eyes, but it's like 8 like red lights on the front of it. So what's the message with this spider for you guys here, the spider robot here? It's a reminder that you guys aren't a machine, and sometimes we judge ourselves like, oh, we're a machine, we need to have all this output, or I should just be able to go 24/7 and not rest. But if you think about it, even machines like break down if they don't have, usually if they don't have like oil changes, or if they don't have, you know, some downtime for maintenance, or even computers. There's so much like, hey, have you tried turning it off and turning it back on again to get something to work better? So don't judge yourself like a machine, even with your output or productivity in the world. Like, it's okay to rest or take time for yourself or choose something else than it's kind of also okay to unplug from the collective energy or stories or paradigms about like, I need to be like XYZ productive or I'm a failure or something, which is just a judgment and like a story or projection we kind of bought from people, right? I think. So you're kind of being asked to unplug from stories. You're being asked to unplug from looking at yourself as a machine that just needs like oil and you're good to go. Like, what do you need right now? That's the question you're being asked. So you can give that to yourself and take care of yourself and give yourself a better life. And sometimes as we're giving to ourselves and taking time for ourselves, we actually unlock better for ourselves in our productivity periods and in what we're aiming to bring in, because we're not running ourselves ragged. And the way I'm being shown it is then being unable to receive or having a harder time calling in what we'd like to call in, because we keep crashing, you know, from all the overwork or whatever you're doing. So try not to treat yourself like a machine is one of the messages coming through for you guys. Next thing here, they're showing me this web. And they're kind of talking about how everything's interconnected. I mean, always, but like right now for you. And you might be called to do something that doesn't make sense in one area of your life. And you're like, why am I working on this thing over here? And the reason you might be called to do that is because it's going to have an effect way over here because of the way the web is interconnected. So you might be like, why am I called to work on my relationship right now when I'm trying to call in money? And the reason is because something about your relationship and working on it is going to help you in this area over here, the way it's interconnected right now. So try not to judge what you're called to do. Seems like a really important theme today because I've said it like 20 times already in this live, and it keeps coming through, is not judging what you're called to do, divinely guided to do, intuitively guided to do, even if it doesn't make sense to anyone else. Because it's going to have an effect, like this thing over here, going to have an effect here, and open things up for you. So trust that. And it could even have to do with like personal healing. Like we're called to take a day off. And we're like, well, Spirit, I have 20 things I wanted to do for my business. And Spirit's like, tough luck. And if you take that day off, then those 20 things can happen so much more easily. And they're kind of telling me to say something. It reminds me of times where literally that exact scenario where I like feel like I have all these things I would like to do, or it seems like I need to do, and Spirit or my God's Spirit guys are like, no, don't work on that right now. 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 But I'm like, gotta work on it. Gotta work, which is kind of societal programming if you think of it, to like, God, always gotta work. Or it's like, maybe it's even like success grind set programming. We're like, oh, it's the grant. Gotta fall in love with the grant. You know, kind of thing. And there's a balance with all that works. I'd really like to create or manifest something way better than all of it, because I feel like people are just like, as a side thing, just speaking into the void when they're on either side, and they're not really like catering to what an individual needs. They're just like speaking their mind and what they want to believe out there. They're like, oh no, grind that's the way to go. And other people are, oh no, rest 24/7 is the way to go. And there's kind of probably a better way on both sides, or you know, some ebb and flow, or just something else that's not just like polarized like that, or just like one size fits all. Because I think we can all be different, you know, with what we need and how we operate. And we tend to judge ourselves like even based on the self-help or like success mindset communities, where they like take these like books and they like copy paste all the like things and they put it in their like in their Instagram posts or whatever. But it's like they try to treat it like a one size fit all, like this is what you have to do to be successful, but like none of it applies. It's like I don't have to wake up at 4 a.m. to be successful. There are a lot of people who don't wake up at 4 a.m. and they are successful. Like there are a lot of people who don't chug a gallon of water every morning and they're successful. It's kind of like what's actually true about all these things and what are we being sold and why? So that's just something to consider. But coming back to what they're trying to get to, because I know I just went into a whole tirade and hopefully that was helpful for you because it's where it went. But let me see what would be highest and best to come to next for you guys here. I'm just learning to trust what's coming through, even if it turns into a rant or something. But what else would be for that? The next thing they're showing me is like this electricity. And this web we were talking about is being electrocuted in a way, or like electricity is running through it. They're also showing this web turning and going from something like flat to something more like multidimensional or like something else. So you are being upgraded to be more multidimensional, and that could be why certain things that were working or seemed like they were working aren't working as much anymore, especially if they were based in like 3D mindset or thinking, or they were based in old world mindset or thinking, like super competition kind of thing, or like got to beat everyone else down to succeed or something like that. Not that you're like that, but I feel like you're being shown a new way and you really need to listen again to what you're divinely guided to do with this, because it's not going to be the same as the old way. And if something just stops working, that's your cue to like pay attention and being like, okay, what will work or what has been working that I haven't been paying attention to, and go that direction instead, or ask spirit for a different way that will work, because you're becoming a more multidimensional being and it's going to set you up for success, but you have to listen is what I'm getting for whatever reason to say. And it's going to lead to a much better world for you and potentially the world overall as you head this direction, because it really opens up for the highest good the gateway for other people to have multidimensionality and a better world, which is really cool. And like, don't neglect the effect your own abundance has on other people, or like the example of you having abundance has on other people. Like, don't hold yourself back for anyone right now. Because we kind of talked about it earlier, but you having good things is like the world, in a sense, having good things, because you're a part of the world. So if you have a great life, you're a part of the world having a great life. And I know that sounds weird and maybe counter logical, because I think sometimes people have this story they were trained into that they're taking away from other people if they have it good, but you might actually be showing other people the way to have it good, or you might be showing an example to people where they will let go of the societal programming that keeps them stuck, and they'll move towards having it good for them, whatever that means for them instead, whether it's abundance or something else. So again, I don't know why I'm saying it again. Try not to judge what you're doing right now. So next thing here, about the multidimensionality here. So the realities you've been kept from that you haven't been able to get to, this something similar came through in the collective reading, like the things in the way are being removed. They're showing these like glass panes in your way, and you're trying to get to this reality, even of abundance, or just higher, I'm hearing the words higher learning as well, or just things having more ease, or things not sucking, or things I'm hearing as well. And you're like, you have it like your face pressed against the pane of glass in your hands, and you're like, I'd like to be over there. And I feel like you've learned the lessons you need to be over there. So the glass is going to be removed, or maybe you're just realizing you can break the glass and going over there instead of like being on the struggle bus, right now, which is really great. So I'm going to say it again. Listen to yourself, trust yourself, like you're being shown a new way for you, and it might be exclusive to you, which is why you're being told to listen to yourself so much today. Next thing with the spider here, what's up with this? There's just this message you're not in danger. Like if you think of like if you were on a giant spider's web, and you might be afraid of there being like a giant spider that was going to try to eat you, but it can't, is what I'm getting. Or like you might be afraid of being eaten metaphorically in some way in your life. You're not going to be. Sorry, I just had the something I don't think I can get into in TikTok Live that would be funny, and I think some of your heads went there, but and it is 18 plus bedtime fun time related. That's a different type of eating that you're more than welcome to call in for yourself, but it's not what I'm referring to with this. I feel like some of you are like, oh my God, but let me see what they'd like to get to. next for you guys here? You're not going to be eaten, and I feel like you're safe, which is cool here. They're switching it up. They're showing me golf clubs, and what's up with the golf clubs? You know, in golf, like the thing they're kind of showing me is, you know how you have, let me see how they'd like me to say it. They're like, no, you're spot on. Just keep saying it. So in golf, you have like really big like hits that you need to make in a golf course. Like you need to hit well, you don't need to, but usually you'd like to hit with the driver for your first hit to get it as far as you can go, as close to the hole as you can get it with your big hits. And then as you get closer to the hole, you kind of have to take smaller, you know, approaches. Like you need to use the putter on the green instead of your driver. In theory, you usually don't want to drive it 400 yards when the hole is like 2 feet away. You would like to use the putter to like putt it the 2 feet in, so you have the greatest chance of making it into the hole. But 1 second, I need to do this. Okay. Sorry, so guys, can you let me know if the audio is still lining up with the visual for you guys? Because they did the thing where they want me to verify I'm still here. And sometimes that throws things off. So talking about eating with the taco, that's funny. We're good. Thank you, Marina. So appreciate it. Thank you, Spirit of Love. Thank you, Kimmy. I appreciate it. Hey, Prince Priestess, how you doing? So, but what they were saying is like, the smaller, let me get back to like what they wanted to say with it, because I kind of got off track there. It's kind of talking about how the small things matter sometimes. Like sometimes we want to take big swings at life and we want to just like quit our job and move to Costa Rica and hang out with the monkeys and drink wine on the beach. And that's cool. And you can manifest that and bring that in at the right time for you as well. But sometimes the small maneuvers matter just as much as the big giant leaps that we're taking. So sometimes we're guided to do something small and we're like, I don't feel like it. I would like to be over here doing this big thing, but maybe that's not the move right now. Maybe you need to set yourself up for the big swing on the next golf hole, metaphorically, by taking the putt right now and taking the win with where you're at. Does that make sense? Or just making the move you need to make with where you're at now so you can have the big jumps in the future. Because right now there are small maneuvers that matter. There are like small mindset shifts that matter for some of you is something I'm hearing. There are small things that will really make a difference for you that matter. Even if it's just small like habit changes you're making every day. Because I think sometimes we would like to take the big swings and like we'd like to start our business and we'd like to have 1 million followers now, and we're overlooking the small habits we can make that will get us there in a year or however long, instead of just trying to take big home run swings, you know, every once in a while. So look at the small things you're doing right now and trust that those matter sometimes just as much as the big swings you've taken. Like for some reason, the metaphor is the game of golf and how it all kind of matters to get the best score possible. And that's what you're kind of being guided to look at, is the small things you're doing and how that makes a difference, and trusting that you're going to make the right adjustments if you're making adjustments with that right now. And again, they'd like to highlight habits and daily practices and like weekly flow with your habits and practices as well to make the most of this idea right now, because that's going to lead up to the big wins that you're looking for if you're taking the small swings where it counts as well. Okay, so anything else I'd be for you guys? I want to make sure I explain that thoroughly enough where that's going to make sense and help you guys out enough for the message. Look at your daily habits, you're going to get it, is what I'm hearing. So we're going to move on to the next thing here. So what's the next message for you guys here? I would also look at what you guys need to have more space for yourselves, because I'm getting you guys need more space. And there's a couple ways we can look at this. Do you need space from other people? Do you need space from a job? Do you just need to carve out more you time for yourself in the week? Or do you need to carve out, like even on a different level, like more etheric space for yourself? And what is that even like? It's kind of like letting go of other people's judgments so you have more of like, if this makes any sense, like your own energy or your own place you're coming from that doesn't feel as like heavy as someone else's. It's kind of like going your own direction in your life and carving out what you would like to see instead of listening to everyone else sometimes is also something I'm getting to talk about. And it might not make a lot of sense because there's two things. I have a symbol I channeled through that's about that actually. I have it up on my wall right now, but I can't show you right now because I'm being guided not to. But there's also, I've heard other people talk about it. It might even be where I originally heard the concept, which is like from Access Consciousness, where they talk about like having space and like around you, like as an energy, like it feels light, it feels spacious. You have space to exist and be you and have your reality instead of being bogged down by like the judgments and like projections and lies from others, I guess, or from society or whatever you want to say. And some of you might need that. If you already know what I'm talking about, perfect, then you know what I'm talking about. If this doesn't make sense to you, then maybe look at some of the other things I said around this topic that might make more sense, and don't worry about it right now. And at the right time, you'll get the tools you need to make that happen or to understand it. But don't judge yourself if you're in either camp or you'd like to be in a different camp between either of those. Like, it doesn't matter. The message, however it resonates for you, is like, do you need space and how can you cultivate it for yourself right now? And don't neglect that, because it's important, is what I'm getting for you guys. And again, it could just be time for yourself. It could be a vacation. It could be not inundating yourself in other people's energies out of social obligation. For some of you, it might be trying to find like a work from home job instead of an in-person job, if you can. I know those are like more difficult to potentially, well, I don't know. I read it's more difficult to find somewhere. I didn't check in if that was actually true. And it is in some instances, it's not in others. But for some of you, that could be helpful if you could find something like that here. So they're actually done with the fire signs reading. I know that was kind of a weird one, but or maybe it wasn't. Hope that helped and resonated. Whatever was for you guys good. You guys are on the right track. I do feel like things are working out for you, but I'd kind of be like just sticking with it right now and hanging in there, and just know things are improving and you're on the upswing. It just might not seem like it right now for some of you guys who've been kind of going through it a little bit. You're welcome, guys. Hope that helped. That was kind of a, you know, it's funny because I always like after these readings, sometimes I'm like, oh, that was weird. I don't know if I really got to what mattered. But if I rewatch it, at least for the readings that are for me, like my signs or whatever, I'll be like, no, that was perfect. That makes sense. So hopefully that is your experience as well with these here. Oh, cool. Felt inspired to play guitar while you channeled. Super cool. That's awesome. Maybe that's opening something intuitively for you with that. It wasn't weird at all. Thanks, Prince Priestess. I appreciate it. Thanks for the baby steps reminder. You're welcome. I know sometimes we judge it, but yeah. There are so many things that if I didn't show up and do them every day, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, you know? And there are so many things that if I showed up and worked on them every day, I know I'd be a lot further with them, as like projects at least as well. And it reminds me of one time it's a book I'll probably never release because it was right before my like more spiritual awakening. And then once I went through that, I was like, I don't think I can put this in the world, but it was this book I wrote. And in some ways it was pretty funny. What I realized was if I just showed up one day a week and worked on it for however long I felt called to or could manage, eventually it would get done. And so like what happened is I'd have one day a week, that was my day off. And usually it was about 4 hours. Sometimes it was longer if I was like in the groove and flow, but sometimes all I really happened was like 4 hours. And I was like, I don't think I can keep going with this. And eventually over the course of the weeks and months, like book got a lot of progress done because I kept showing up with some type of baby step or consistency and getting it done. And sometimes with bigger long-term projects, we just have to keep showing up and find our groove with it and keep showing up until it's done, and trust that that approach will get it done eventually, instead of being mad we can't write the whole book in one day or something like that. Yeah, the books. So I'm gonna be really straight up with you guys. I have to use the restroom like super badly. Oh, thank you for the shout out, Crystal Kelly Music, about the chakra packs. And I'm so glad to hear that they've been amazing and helped you out. That means a lot. So, okay, started channeling a book. Heck yeah, I remember you talking about that. Keep showing up. was perfect. Thanks, Brandon. You're welcome, Annie. I'm Canada. Thanks for letting me know. I'm going to pause the live and use the restroom. I'll be back in 2 minutes. Or Marina, you can put up, or if you're here and you have time and no pressure on it. But also shout out to the moderators and anyone helping out with the live. I so appreciate it. I'll be back in 2 minutes. I just have to pee. I think I'm just going to pause the live and then you guys know what's up. I'll be okay. I'm back. Thanks for pinning that comment, Marina. So appreciate it. So appreciate. Hopefully that, maybe next time I won't pause the live. I don't know. Should make a BRB in 2 minutes sign with a hand-drawn. Love it, Honeycomb Hideout. I will consider that. I think that's a good idea, actually. Was that for manifesting? Do you suggest keeping it open or energetic or getting specific? So I hope this doesn't confuse you, but what I'm getting to recommend for you, and maybe for everybody, is both, depending on the topic. Because getting energetic and open is so helpful for things we don't know how to word or don't know how to get to, or when we're trying to ask for something beyond words. And let's see. Getting specific, again, is also really helpful for the details, of course, as you might imagine. That sounds really obvious now that I'm saying it. But what I'm getting to recommend is try doing both. And let me see how they want to recommend that for you guys here. And I would also recommend trying to access your own intuition and seeing what are you getting to do each time you go to manifest, whether it's with words or intention like that, or with open and energetic. Because you might be just guided different ways for each specific scenario depending. And what's up here? I'm trying to see if there's any specific examples I'd like to give to help explain it better, but we'll see if they have anything to say about that. Yeah, maybe that's enough. That's all I need to say right now, but they're try both and see which one you prefer, but also keep both in mind for your future, because they can both really be helpful and you might be guided different ways depending on the situation. The other thing you can do is if you manifest specific things, you can check the energy of what it's going to be like when you're manifesting it and be ooh, does this feel this because sometimes you write something down that feels so good. You're you write it down and you're okay, what would it be like if this showed up? You're oh my God, it's amazing. You're yes, let's go. And sometimes you write something down and you think it's something awesome and you're wait, why does this feel bad, not bad per se, but you're like, why does this feel like weird and heavy and anxiety inducing and for example, like I'm manifesting like relationships with specific people. Just if you're, that's not my way of doing that, because I think that's probably a good way to do it. We're specific about some of the things we want. We're specific about what we desire. We're specific about our boundaries. With that is something I've heard from multiple people. That's a helpful idea, but also you might consider doing like the energetics as well of like what would be like optimal and like the best thing for me. And I'm really attracted to them. They're really attracted to me, and list some of your specifics and maybe list what you're free from, and then ask like how it gets any better than that and feel that energy and kind of see what shows up. Cause I've noticed like in the past, and it's not like I'd go around hardcore and be like, yeah, we have to date this person. Cause like some of the thing that really skeeves me out a little bit is like the people who are like, let's manifest specific people. They don't have free will. And I'm like, ugh. Like that's going to backfire so hard are the words I'm hearing to say right now. Cause you're just trying to control everything. It's not high consciousness. It's coming from more of an ego place. It's coming from a lot of lower stuff is what I'm getting to say. And it's just not there. And it's not like, hey, source, what would be for the highest good for all involved? And if someone did that to me, I'd be so, well, what's the best way to say this? I was about to say I'd be so pissed and annoyed. But I'd be like, why are you trying to control me? I don't want anything to do with you. If that's what you're trying to do to me, so you can have your way, like I exist, I'm here, I'm a freaking person. Like, excuse me, I have things I desire. I have my own dreams. I have my own targets. You don't get to stop me from that just because I'm not doing what you want me to do and you want to be with me or something like that. Like that would be like someone I would like to be free from being with if they started doing that stuff regarding me, because they're just trying to be controlling and everything. I don't know why I'm on this rant, so I'm sorry, or I'm not sorry. But what I've noticed in the past was like one time there was like someone I was interested in, and I thought they were interested in me, and I was like, okay. At the time, I think I was like, okay, universe, ascended masters, angels, if it's for the highest good, and should it be in the highest good, I'd like this to happen. If you'll have it happen, if not, then just, I understand, bring me something else. But it still didn't go well. Even though I was like, had all these like caveats around there. I'm not saying it was because I manifested someone specific, I was getting punished or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. But I think it was just like, if I'd paid attention to the energetics of like, what's it going to be like if that happens? And I felt, I had that energy of like what it would be like. And I was like, oh, that feels like a lot of crap. I would have been like, never mind, we're not going this direction. I'm actually going to just ask for something else entirely. Cause it's like, yeah, I got what I asked for in a way, but it wasn't what I desired at the end of the day. And so that's maybe another example of just trying not to control everything, and why it's probably a better idea to not try to control everything like that. Because sometimes you're going to get slapped. And not because you're being punished, by the way. It's just kind of good to pay attention to the general energetics of what you're manifesting is what I'd say. And that's kind of how I'd probably work with both. Leo Diaz says they'd love me. Good to see you, by the way. Another example here. Let's see here. It's going to be different for different ones of you. It's kind of the issue I'm running into and what I'm hearing. So it's like hard to give like a one size fits all. Like here's when you use specifics. Here's when you use energetics. I would consider getting specific when the details really matter to you. And when you know this is what you'd like and it's what you're being guided to do, and you're like, no, I'm being guided to ask for these specific things. But I'd also check in like I just talked about, maybe with the energetics of that and like kind of openness of like, okay, what would it be like if this showed up? How does it get any better than that? How's it get any better than that? How's it get any better than that? And you'll feel the energy keep getting better and better and better. And then once it's like amazing, you're like, I ask for that, or something like that is an idea to consider. That or better, me too, that's for sure. So hopefully that answers your question and isn't just what you were already. It's great. Thanks. Perfect. I hope that helps. You're welcome. I hope that helps. Yeah, I know that might not have been exactly what you were looking for, but hopefully that is what is going to be lead to the best results for everybody. Hey, yeah, absolutely. your daily meditation exercise. Been doing it for over a month and that will always help. I'm so glad to hear it. Crystal Kelly Music. That's awesome. Is that the create the highest and best day for you MP3? That's probably the one. Yeah, that one. I like that one when I'm guided. I mean, not, yeah, I'm guided to go through my own stuff sometimes. So, and when I'm guided to go through, I really like it. And it's something I actually would like to incorporate every day because it does make a difference for me. But it's also more like the intention is it does what's highest and best for the highest good of the people who listen to it. So in some ways, what's the best way to say this? Let's not limit it, but I'd like it to really be the best it could be for all of you as well. Completely changing your life. That means so much, Crystal Kelly Music. And that's exactly the feedback I'd like to hear, that or better. And I so appreciate you telling me and letting me know because that makes my nights. And that's one of the reasons I do it 100%. And you know, it's also when you hear that feedback, it gives you a reason to keep going. Not that I was going to stop, but you know what I'm saying. For the guided meditations, for that one, create the highest and best day for you. Those are actually, that one's for sale on my website. On my store. So if you go to my link in bio to the store, you'll see the channeled like MP3s and you can scroll down and there's different options. And it's also available for free to the Let's Go Higher Gold level membership as well. The create the highest and best day for you. So if you're already a member, then you already have that one in the membership under the channeled guided exercises section. So hopefully that helps if you feel called to it. Oh, thank you, Regina Fierce. You've often been our light, even in our darkest times. That means a lot. And I'm appreciative that I was able to be here for you and facilitate what I facilitated for the highest good for you. So thank you for letting me know. And you know, I do also have, if you're like, I don't have money for MP3s, there are also things on YouTube for free that aren't the exact same things, but there are some other things there that I have on my YouTube you could check out. Just not the same ones. So we're going to start the Earth Signs reading. So if you have an Earth sign, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this is going to be for you when you see it. Also, I just want to say thanks for shouting it out, Crystal Kelly Music. Because your guys' is like feedback and I guess you could say testimonials, if you will, are something that helps get it out into the world to the people who it will help, you know, and who, I guess for, you know, the people it's meant to get to. So thank you. But if you have an Earth sign, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this is meant to be for you when you see it. And I'm going to channel through what would be for that's good for you. I'm going to channel my spirit guides, angels, and stars, work for my intuition on that. And sorry, I'm like picking up on certain people's energies as I'm talking here. So if I pause, I'm just like, wow. And it's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's you guys and you all or anything. It could just be people who are like, why is he talking about his MP3s or something like that? Or it's just people scrolling by like, is he promoting? How dare he? But anyways, I'm going to restart my intro and we're going to do this. So this is meant to be for you when you see it, whether you're here live or on YouTube. I'm going to channel my spirit guides, the angels, and stars for you, work with my intuition on this, bring through what you need to hear, what's going to be for your highest good, and what's going to help you out for the highest good. That's my intention. So let's start here. So we just had a whole talk about grounding before the fire signs reading, during the fire signs reading, and we're kind of on a similar note here. So what's this about here? It's funny because they're giving this message like, hey, grounding doesn't mean what you think it means. So what's the message then? So I know maybe this is just because we had this conversation this live. For those of you who were here like for earlier, or maybe you have a fire and earth sign reading, it's kind of like you're relearning potentially, or some of you will be, what grounding is or what some of these things are that have been sold to us in kind of some like predetermined packages of like, we went to a class and the teacher's like, here's what this thing is, like, here's what grounding is. So you're kind of relearning it in a way that works for you better instead of being swept up into the, presumed realities of other people are the words I'm hearing, which is really cool. So I guess congrats on overcoming that. Beyond all of that though here, you're learning what works for you, or you will be soon here, or maybe you have recently, and that's going to help you be more successful because sometimes when we're operating based on other people's ideas of how things work or other people's realities, we kind of stick ourselves in a way where we kind of don't seem to have access to what works for us in that moment because we're trying to play by someone else's rules that maybe don't apply in the same ways or maybe aren't really ours. And I know this is kind of like meta stuff that we're talking about here. This might be a little bit beyond the normal stuff you'll find out there, but hopefully it's making sense and landing in a way that's helpful for you. And it's really what they're saying here is you're getting to your reality and you're going to shine from that place instead of maybe even being afraid of what other people are saying or like ideas people are throwing your way or feeling like you have to operate like someone else or in the same world as or reality as someone else. And what I don't mean is my guys just channeled on this yesterday from the time I'm filming it. They did a full channel mode message on this and I forget what they said, but they said it pretty well. Where like it doesn't mean that we all of a sudden just like for example, living in our own reality isn't like, oh, the sky's green and it's like disconnected from like the truth of things. In fact, it's kind of the opposite where we're more connected to the actual truth or the truth source would like us to know, if that makes sense. And we're not operating based off everyone else's like bullcrap, if you will, or everyone else's like projections or assumptions or judgments of reality or like what things are or how things work, especially like metaphysically and in the etheric. And I realize this is kind of high level stuff, but you need to hear it, whether or not, if not for now, for your future. So you have that idea on your back pocket, maybe to help you out here. Because it might be a key that unlocks some things for you in the future where you're not like swept up in someone else's reality and how they're telling you things have to work. And you're like, wait a second, that's not how it was working for me yesterday. Maybe I don't have to go down this rabbit hole with this person. I can just keep doing what's been working for me until I'm guided a different direction. So, hopefully that helps and makes sense, and we're going to keep going anyways. And let's see what else would you like to bring through for you here. Next thing they're showing me is a motorcycle. It's the brand is Indian, and I'm not okay. The reason the energy might have felt weird there for a second is like, oh, I don't want people to think I'm like promoting some cultural appropriation of an Indian brand motorcycle and the Native Americans and all that. So that's, so give me a second, because I was like having this energy of like, oh, I don't want them to like think that, and that might have created some of that. maybe not, but let me see what they want to say about this here. So the message regarding the motorcycle is about freedom. And it's also like not buying other people's beliefs about yourself. So for example, if you have a friend who just comes up to you and maybe you haven't been spending as much time with them as you used to be or something like that, and you're like, they might be like, oh, you're selfish because you're not spending every Saturday and weekend with me like we used to. But you're just like, bro, I'm just trying to catch my breath from my job every week. I can't spend that time with you or I'm going to crash. And you're not actually being selfish. You're actually like doing what you need to do for yourself. And what is selfish anyways is a question, like whose judgment is that and who decides what that is and what that pertains to, and, is another question for you. And maybe we don't have to buy that, like we've just been talking about, but you don't have to buy those judgments other people have of you. You can kind of live in freedom and trust your choices and let people judge you if they're going to, and just make your own choices anyways, because that's kind of the best way to operate right now. Because sometimes people try to control through judgment, or they try to, what's the best way to say this? They try to like say people are bad people if they do something because someone else judged it as bad and they don't want to be that thing, if that makes sense. So they judge it so they don't be that thing. Or so they can please maybe their tribe, if you will, who judge that thing, and they can belong to the group and validate that for everyone so that they belong, quote unquote. There's another way you could look at it, potentially, or at least I've noticed that happen before, where it's like in the past when I would catch myself judging something, it'd be like because someone else I was friends with like judged this thing, and I was like, oh, we're friends, and for whatever reason, then I'd start judging that thing, and then I'd have to kind of catch that and undo that. I'm a lot better with it now. I don't really, maybe I do, and I'm fully willing to own it if I do, but something they were saying is like, you don't really judge at all now, or like at least not nearly as much if I still do, is what they're telling me right now. So that's great. That's what I'd like to, that's like more where I'd like to operate from. And that could lead to a lot more peace. So, and sometimes the judgments you're picking up on when you find yourself judging, if you check in, it's like actually not yours, you're picking it up on from someone else. And you're like, oh, that's not my judgment of that thing, which is also kind of trippy, or it doesn't have to be trippy, but anyways, what I'm trying to get to for you guys is not to let the judgments of others stop you, not to buy it as truth about you, and not to operate from that place where just because someone's judging you as something, you have to be that thing or it means you are that thing, because it's just not true, obviously. And owning your power can also be not operating just how people want you to be because it's convenient for them. Owning your power can be making your own choices regardless of what anyone else thinks, does, chooses, judges, or is upset about, because you're not here to, you didn't like incarnate on earth, like maybe partially for the lesson of it to like grow past it, but you didn't incarnate on earth to be like, oh, you're here to cater to everybody's feelings. Like God didn't put you on earth to just be like, oh, you're here to tiptoe around and cater to everyone else's feelings. And, even though all that's just other stuff they bought from other people that might create that because they have these stories they bought from other people or judgments they have, that from other people. And like, even though you hurting their feelings has nothing to do with you or how you are, like absolutely not. I would say you probably did not come here to cater to people's feelings 24/7 and like step yourself down because of that or anything like that. So really what this message is about is also owning your power and trusting yourself with that and not letting people take you off your game because they don't like something or they're judging something. So hopefully that helps you to hear about that pep talk there. Next thing with the motorcycle here is about freedom, and you are becoming more free, even if you need to take space from yourself or create distance from other people or, take a break from certain people. Like freedom is important, and that frequency, it's going to sound really silly, but that frequency is going to set you free if you're moving towards freedom and manifesting it and walking towards it and making the choices that will bring it about. So I would manifest and intend your way towards freedom for you, whether that's more money, whether that's a less constricting job, whether that's and think long-term with this, because it may or may not be able to show up right away or tomorrow, but you can start making the choices that give you more freedom now and have that compound, And again, you holding that frequency in a sense holds it for other people because you're becoming an example of it and you're creating more of it in the world by having it for yourself. So trust yourself as you move towards freedom is something I'd get here. Next thing here, they're showing me a black and white photo of like an old motorcycle. So I guess we're still on motorcycles here. And what I'm hearing is you're letting go of your family's ancestral history. This could be through like an ancestral healing or clearing. It could be through just you doing your work or you moving towards what you'd like. And now is the space and time period on earth where you can create that. So you're undoing a lot of ancestral garbage that maybe kept your ancestors from doing that or kept even your immediate family from doing the same thing. And it sets everybody free. It heals you don't have to take on your issues or your ancestors, by the way, to heal it. It's kind of backwards. If that makes any sense. Like you don't need to live the same life they did to heal it or anything like that. I guess what I'm trying to facilitate here, or what they're trying to facilitate here, is like actually setting you free from that with this channel message in a sense is maybe part of it. But as you move towards what you desire and create more of that, or maybe as you create more freedom, you're actually like setting a lot of things free and healing your ancestral lineage, even if it doesn't ostensibly look like it right on the surface of that. Because it might just look like your normal life. You're just trying to get to a better place or something, but you're actually like actively healing things and like stirring things up. And it's actually a really good thing. So you're kind of healing the world through that. And again, healing the world does not mean taking on the world's issues and healing it like that. It just means what's the best way to say that? You're transforming the energetics of the world through doing this without you having to take anything on. If you need that clarification for those of you who are like worried about that, so which might not be all of you, and I don't want you to become worried about that if you weren't worried about it before. Ideally, I would like to reword that. I would like you to be free from becoming worried about that if you weren't worried about that before. Can't just clear the other one. And that's my thing, so don't worry about it with the choice of words there. Next thing they'd like to get to here for you is, so you're setting yourself free from ancestral patterns. You're healing that. I feel like once you do that, not that you can't right now, but you'll be able to create anything you desire. So just keep going is what I'd say with whatever you're trying to create right now. I also this kind of ties in with the first message I was getting for you guys, but you're getting new ways of doing things. Like you're receiving new ways of making things happen, and you common theme today, need to listen to yourself about that, because it might be different than like everything everyone has ever told you, or a lot of people have ever told you, or everyone in your past has ever told you. But you like need to do it, or you might feel compelled to do it, or intuitively you're like, I have to do this. I'm getting it's going to work. So trust yourself on that. And even if it's different than everyone's ever told you is like how things work or what you can do or how to go about something, trust yourself. It's like you're creating new pathways by doing it. And sometimes people just don't think something's possible because they've never done it before. They've never seen it before. But once it's there and it's possible, everyone's like, oh yeah, of course you could do that. Da, da, da. It's like kind of like cars. It's like before, or airplanes. You remember like that story? I don't know if this is the perfect example, like where some like article published like, oh, it's going to take 1,000 years to create a flying machine with, and I'm saying it now because we're in the future with hindsight. And so it's like, yeah, would I say that back then? Well, if I were approaching it intuitively, I'd probably say something similar actually, because I'd be getting the accurate information on it. But you know, they were like, it's going to take like 1,000 years, even if all the top scientists get together and try to make a flying machine to make a flying machine. And then like the next like year, like the Wright brothers or whoever they were, like made their flying machine. And then like, you know, 10 years later, there's like flying machines and one of the world wars or whatever, and dogfights happening. And then like 50 years later, we're going to space. It's kind of like everyone's like, you know, sometimes people are just like, oh, it can't be done until it's done. And they're like, oh, of course it can be done. We know that. And it's like, okay, where were you before it was done? So I think sometimes it's good to hold things a little bit loose and be like, okay, what is actually possible? And go with what we know and what we're getting instead of what everyone's saying, because you might know something they don't, and you might be the first person to do it. And think about too, like the dude who ran the first like I think it was the first sub 4-minute mile or the sub 5-minute mile. I can't remember which one it was, where they were like the first person to run a mile in under 4 minutes, I think. And like all the scientists were like, oh, da 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 da, it can't be done, da 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 da. Da, 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 da. But then all of a sudden, like someone does it. I forget the guy's name. I'm sorry. And then all of a sudden, like everyone's doing it, you know, like the next few years, because everyone's like, oh, it can be done. Let's do it. So you might be the person who needs to break the chain of doubt and non-belief and buying a projection of what is or isn't possible to do it. And then everyone's going to follow suit and be like, oh, we always knew you could do it, or something, you know, something like that. So I think I've heard like Mr. Beast say something similar as well. This is not the example they wanted me to go to. So, but I'll say it because I started saying it, where and maybe it applies, maybe it doesn't, but he was just like, I think he like saw like he could do it, or he was at least just kept trying. And like once he made it, they were like, well, you had the work ethic, you da 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 da. I'd be like, where were you before this? You kept saying I was wasting my time before like it blew up. So it's just kind of similar. Not exactly like that. It doesn't have to be a personal thing. It could be something else, but something like that. So I've been talking about that for a while. So let's move to the next thing they like to get to here. So I do get manifestations increasing for this group. It might be part of something they've been trying to talk to, and they're just asking like, what else is possible with manifestation for the highest good? And I, one second here. One thing I was getting for 2024, even in like the newsletter, the free newsletter, I think there were a lot of messages on 2024 that came out in December when I facilitated the channel messages on December. And one of the messages I keep getting is like manifestations like increasing, and it's more divinely guided and orchestrated, and it's faster and it's improving and upgrading. You're gonna be seeing that like now is something I'm getting with the way things are showing up for you. And I feel like it's just gonna keep compounding if you're willing to run with it and trust it and not, I mean, maybe it will keep happening even if you do second guess it, but maybe, you know, try not to second guess it too much, because it's just a new path opening up for you that you've potentially even earned through the work you've been doing, or you're just ready to receive it because you're open to it. And, you know, the other thing I'm hearing for some of you is the universe might be giving you something before everyone else, like etherically, and you need to trust yourself and what you're getting on it instead of neglecting it because no one else seems to be talking about it or believing in it, if that makes sense. Because as you do it, people will open up to it, of course. Or you might find other people down the road who open up to it, but you could have been doing it the whole time if you just like trusted it in the first place, you know. I guess they're done. So I hope that helped, resonated, whatever is for you guys good. We're going to go to the air signs in a second, but I'm going to take a second to drink water and electrolytes. And I'm not sponsored by Gatorade, by the way. You're going to see a commercial one day with me like sweating the colors, like with the athletes. No, you're not, probably. Well, no, I don't think that's gonna happen. That was fab. You're welcome, Abundance Love Joy. So glad to hear it. You're so welcome, Kelly Heels. You're so welcome, Sarah C's. You're welcome. Everybody, thank you. That resonates. You're welcome. Glad to hear it. How's it get any better than all of this? Oof, man. You're welcome, Robin Rice. They'd actually like me to jump into air signs right away. So I know sometimes I hang out a bit between them. Hey, how's it going? But that's not what we're doing right now. So if you have an air sign, Sun, Moon, or Rising, actually I'm gonna take one more second just to like make sure I'm hydrated here. Perfect timing. So if you have an air sign, Sun, Moon, or Rising, excuse me, this is meant to be for you when you see it. I'm be channeling my spirit guides, the angels and source for you, bringing through whatever would be for your highest good. And just my intention is may it be helpful, may it bring through what you need to hear, and may it be fully accurate. Let's start. They didn't like that I just said all those intentions right there, but whatever. How does it get any better than that? We're going to start anyways, and let's see what comes through. So first thing they're showing me is a vacuum. I'm just getting the message it's time to clean up your life, and it's time to clean up your habits, and it's time to look at where you've been holding yourself back and change that, because it's just time. And if you're willing to kind of look at that and kind of do some of that work, or just see how you can shift some of those things, it's going to pay dividends. It's going to lead you to the life you'd like to live, and it's going to lead you to success as well. It could even lead to love, in certain ways. I'm not sure why this is showing up as something to be talked about, but some things I've heard other people talk about. I was just listening to something from Lee Harris where he talked about when you're trying to like create something. It's like there's a number of different things you can do to start to bring that about. We're like, yes, you intend, and sometimes that's enough. I've found sometimes I just ask and it shows up, but I don't have to do anything else. But sometimes we also can start to move things physically towards creating that, where it's like if you're, for example, trying to bring love in, like his example was like he'd put like magical crystal in his bedroom to like kind of cultivate that space as a magical, intimate place for like love he'd like to call in, or he'd, find himself reorganizing certain things where I think there's like a card. This isn't exactly what I'm trying to say, but I've seen an oracle card and it has something along the lines of like, oh, if you're trying to bring in love, like start behaving as if that person is there. Like what habits would you cultivate if someone were there, in your love life? Like what space can you hold for that to show up or something like that? And not all of you are trying to manifest love right now, of course, but that's just an example that you could look at. So are there habits you need to change that would help you to change? Is there anything you can look into right now? Because the universe is like, all right, cleanup time. What do you need to succeed? What do you need to go where you'd like to go? It's time to look at that in your daily habits and action steps here. And the ways you're cultivating space for what you'd like to show up as well. And sometimes that can also entail like physically giving certain things away you're done with. It's amazing the space that opens up when you trust your intuition on what you're divinely guided to. Like if you're divinely guided to give a crystal to someone, or even like a really cool big one, or you're divinely guided to sell things in your garage, or donate things to Goodwill, and all of a sudden all these other amazing things show up sometimes, or maybe it can be all the time, but because you've made space for them. And I'm not saying you always have to do that to manifest something or to receive something, but sometimes that can be part of the process. So what are the things you need to clean up right now, I guess, is the first thing. Next thing they like to get to, they show me this sword, but it's one of those swords that's like in a cane, where you draw the sword out of the cane. It's like a hidden sword or something like that, or like a whatever. So what's the message with that? So what I'm hearing for you guys is you guys have a lot of potency in you, but it's like it's hidden, or you might already feel like you have a lot and it's time to bring it out. And you're right, it's time to bring it out. But the universe is kind of asking, like, what will it take for you to kind of unhide your fangs, metaphorically? And I mean fangs in a positive way, because it's like your ability to get stuff done, your ability to be potent, your ability to move mountains and move energies and get to where you'd like to go. Because it's kind of time to stop hiding you and what you can do, and it's time to stop hiding your sword and what the sword is representing, with all this, which is interesting. And I feel like that's one of the habits, at least for some of you, that holds you back, is like hiding your potency, hiding from the world, hiding what you're capable of, hiding what you can do. You don't show anyone, so you don't necessarily get as far as you'd like to. So for example, if you were trying to sell art and you're a really amazing artist and you never post your art online, it's like, okay, how's anyone going to see you're really great at this thing? And I know like that could be a whole topic, is that gets into like a business side as well with like, but you can learn in a segue, you can learn those skills. You can learn business skills. You're fully capable. You have full potency to learn. You learned how to do art really well. You can learn how to do business really well as well. You can learn how to do airplane flying. That was the weird way to say that. You could learn how to fly a plane really well. Like you're not really limited with all that. So that could also be your potency, is you're like, you flip the switch. You're like, I'm willing to learn how to do this thing so I can get to where I'd like to go. Like I'm willing to learn business so I can sell my art and have a successful art business or whatever you're trying to do. You know, that's just an example. But stop hiding you, I guess, is part of the message. And don't worry about stepping on, well, don't intentionally step on toes necessarily, but don't worry about stepping on toes. Don't worry about hurting anyone's feelings if you're worried about that. Because you're worried, maybe you're like, I don't know, maybe you're people used to, okay. If this resonates for you, because it might not be all of you, but if you're someone who was really good at something or talented or smart or whatever, and people shamed you for it or judged you for it or came down on you for it because they were threatened by it, it's time to undo that pattern and shine anyways. They can't stop you anymore, and you're not in grade school anymore. If this is something that happened in like your childhood, or you're not living with you might be living with your parents, but you're not a little kid, dependent on your parents necessarily anymore, most of you. If this applies to you in this way. So it's time to undo that pattern if that applies to you. That might not be all of you. For others of you, though, it's just time to win. And that's all Spirit's trying to say with this is, hey, what do you need to do to win? Let's do it. And let's not worry about anything on the way if you can help it. So next thing I'd like to get to here is like, you are unhiding you, which is good. We just talked about this, or I can't remember if it was during a reading or if I just went on this conversation in between readings. I think it was in between readings, but I was talking about how it's kind of time, like one of my intentions that I've been setting and desiring to choose is just not being nice anymore. Because nice is kind of a societal conditioning. It's politeness. It's not necessarily true or authentic. It's like how we're trained to be, and it doesn't necessarily get us where we'd like to go or have the effect on the world we'd like to have effect, even for the highest good. And sure, there might be some things that are misconstrued as niceness, inauthentic kindness, and what I'm not saying is go be an asshole necessarily, whatever that even means. I would still recommend being genuinely kind with healthy boundaries and all that, but if you find yourself being overly polite to other people or overly nice, it's kind of a habit to break right now, because where you're going, you don't need that, and it's not serving you. It's kind of like the common story of people who are really nice at work, so they take on all this work and they go work overtime for the boss, and they're kind of, not to say, I don't know, not to put this out there, put this on you, but there might be like brown nose in the boss or something like that. And then like they just kind of keep getting used because they're not advocating for a raise or for a position or kind of stating what they would like, to the boss. They're just kind of afraid. They don't want to rock the boat. They'd like to be polite, but it's not really getting them anywhere. It's actually burying them in a reality they don't want to live in. So where are you doing that, if at all, and how can you stop? Because it's just kind of time to break that pattern or start looking into breaking that pattern right now is what I'm getting for you here. But you're meant to win is what I'm getting, potentially in this time period, but at least in the future. And I guess like the other question, if I didn't already ask, is like, what do you need to do to win? Like what patterns do you need to break? What changes do you need to make? What do you need to clean up? Because it's like the universe is trying to like hand this to you, and it's like, if you're in your own way, it's time to get out of your own way. But I feel like you are going to be winning. And like we talked about, the universe is helping you clean things up so you can have that more and retain it and have it and build more on it, which is really cool here. So for some of you, you'll know who you are probably. Maybe some of you won't until later, but you need to do business is what I'm hearing. Need is kind of I know that's, well, no, I'm not going to judge need as a weird word there. It's just kind of what I heard is like, that's a really good direction for you to go. And you know who you are, most of you, and you're kind of delaying it maybe. And they're like, just start, for those of you who need to hear that. For others of you here, it doesn't have to be business, but There could be wins in love coming in. There could be wins in your personal world coming in, or maybe even wins in hobbies, depending on where you are at on this in regarding this message here. So next thing they'd like to get to here, because they were showing the gentleman, they were showing polite, and what's next here? They're showing me Alfred, the butler of Batman from Batman. And what's up with this? What is the message here? Sometimes there are people who are really badass and they kind of choose to play the side character a little bit. Because like Alfred probably could be the main character because he's really cool, but he kind of chooses to like help out in the background. He chooses to help support Bruce Wayne, and like he's skilled, like he knows martial arts, he knows these different things. And maybe he chooses that life for a reason. But the thing for you is like, if you feel like, and it gets into a weird thing with like the side character, main character. It's kind of like, what does that even mean after a while? And I'm not, if you use that terminology, you probably know what it means for you, and you don't need to take what I said there and like, I'd freak out. But you don't. The question is like, if you feel like you're more of a side character or a support role in people's lives, like, is that what you'd like to choose and be? And for some of you, authentically, that's yes. And some people love, and that's their role and they're where they fit, like working behind the scenes. And it doesn't mean that's less than someone who's playing a like on stage role. Does that make sense? Like if you think of someone who's kind of directing the play instead of being on stage in the limelight, or someone who's making things work behind the scenes, but they're not like front and center, and like that's needed. That's not lesser than. But if you're playing that role and you don't want to be, maybe it's time to look into doing your own thing or doing like what's going to move you towards the role you'd actually like to play. Because I think sometimes we just get trained into roles and we don't really think about it. We just start doing it. And we're like, okay, wait, why am I doing this? Why am I here? You kind of like wake up one day and you're like, why am I doing this thing when I had all these dreams over here? And now I'm over here and I have a kid and I'm married to this person and I'm just doing all this thing and I have a job to support this, but I wanted to be a singer and I haven't even done anything like that in like years. And oh my God, my life isn't even mine anymore. Like, what does it have to do with me? Like, I don't even know. And time to shy away from that. And if you ended up with wife or husband or partner and kids, I'm not saying you need to like leave them or something like that, but maybe it's time to be like, okay, what role have I been choosing, maybe without even realizing it? What role can I choose that I'd actually like to choose and move towards it? Well, let me say what they like to say here. Some of you just need to choose to be the main character in your own stories and stop like thinking you're not, is what I'm hearing to say for you. Because you can be for you. And you don't have to play the side character if you don't want to. And in some ways, a lot of this might just be projections on like roles and things in life that we don't need to have in the first place, but take it as it resonates and don't stick yourself in a role you don't want to be in just because you find yourself that. There is something I'm getting. And sometimes we're there for a reason. Sometimes that's like what we need at that time. It doesn't mean we're lesser than. Again, it just means like potentially it's time to start consciously choosing and asking for where you'd like to go, regardless of the stories you've been sold on, like who you are, I guess, or what you're supposed to be. And I know like there's different things we're wired for potentially or meant for. So take it all as it resonates and maybe a little bit loosely right here. And maybe I don't need to say all these disclaimers I'm saying. Maybe it all makes sense and I just need to shut up and keep going. So next thing here, they're showing me grains of sand. They're showing an hourglass with sand. They're giving me like the sands of time. They're showing me father time. And the message is like, hey, in theory, we only have so much time. And sure, we could get into all these things like, does time exist? What's possible beyond time? We can step out of time and we could have all those discussions. But the question is like, okay, regardless of what you believe, you have this life right now and it's moving, it's happening. Things are happening and life is happening. And don't fall asleep at the wheel thinking you're just going to get to where you'd like to go without trying is what they're trying to say right now for you guys. Because it's like time, in theory, is ticking. Like a year is going to go by. 2 years are going to go by, in theory. Right? Probably what's going to happen. And what would you like to create with that is really the question that I think they've been warming you up for with this so far. Like, it's just going to keep going. Like, what would you like to experience while you're here? What would you like to create with that? Because the sands are moving. And in theory, there's only so much sand this go around. So keep that in mind. And you know this, on a certain level. It's, people talk about the, oh, you're going to die thing all the time. And yeah. But for some reason, they're reminding you of it again here to help you choose what's for you and get you moving, I guess. Next thing they're showing me are these Hot Wheel cars. And what's up with this? The other thing they'd like to say, completely different message, is it's time to have fun again. Because like the sands are moving, and part of what you're here to experience is fun and joy. And we get trained out of that at an early age, a lot of people, maybe not everybody. So you might have to train yourself back into joy and allowing that and like having fun and like rediscovering what's fun for you, but you can do it. And now's the time because, again, sometimes when we're having fun and joy, we just attract so much better to us around that. It's like that thing that came through, I think, for the last reading where like everything's connected. Or maybe it was this reading. I can't remember which reading the web was in. Sorry. But it's like everything's connected. And like if you're having fun and joy over here, you might be attracting all these great things over here with your business as well, or over here with your relationships as well. You're going to be more maybe open to receiving, and the universe brings really great things with that. So that's kind of all part of what they're trying to say with all that. So they're done with the reading. The last thing they showed me is a jungle and like a lion and like the Lion King and like the Jungle Book, and these worlds are colliding in a weird Disney collision, I guess. So what's up with this? So they're showing you like inserting yourself in other people's stories. And maybe this is, well, I'm not going to, I'm just going to let them bring through what they like. Okay. What's for the highest good here? Don't do that is kind of what they're saying. I'm not even borrowing. It's what they showed me. It's like you're over here and you got like inserted into this other story and you're playing this like weird role that you don't belong in because you're not in the right story. Like you need to be in your story or life or your reality, or you living for you is another way I could put it, potentially, depending on what camp you're in with all that. And sometimes we think the way to bring people into our world is to insert ourselves in their story and play the role they want us to play or be the character they think we should be. And then they'll accept us and love us and like us, and we can have a family together or whatever, or a friend group or whatever. But you're being guided to stay in your own story and draw people to you in the proper ways for you. And it's, in some ways, it's kind of like the I don't chase, I attract thing. It's kind of overused is what I'm hearing, but if it works for you, great. I don't think that's a bad thing at all to put that out there. And sometimes we do have to take action with things, by the way, so keep that in mind with all that. But if you're playing the story you're meant to play and you're being the lead role in your story, you're going to attract the right people for you where there's a bit more cohesion, like the characters belong. It's not like I'm the main character, you're the piece of poo character who wipes my butt for me or whatever. It's more just like collectively everyone belongs and no one's, I guess, judging anyone as beneath them. And like the characters can come and go as they please. And it's kind of like a healthy intersection of stories that's showing to me as a snowflake. Because there's all those crisscross designs and a lot of snowflakes, or it's like a multi-dimensional thing where like characters can like, if the story intersects, great. And if it's parallel, great. Or if they run together for a bit, great. But they can always go to the story they're meant to go to from there and run their unique path. They're not like being jammed into a one-dimensional character in a story and you're letting someone else play this lead role and you don't belong there, but you're trying to force yourself in there. Hopefully this makes any sense to you. But try to get back to your story and let the right people intersect it instead of forcing your way into someone. I've heard a similar concept in like dating, and this runs a risky road, me even talking about this, because it's not coming from the place I'd like to, but let me just get what I would be asking to say instead of trying to pull from this here. I guess to summarize it, I feel like I've been saying it over and over again, but it's better that you're living your life for you instead of living your life for someone else, I guess you could say. Healthy intersection is the better way to go, and allowing things to be multidimensional and possible instead of thinking you can't live without someone, for example, or something like that, and letting them control you with that. So they're done. I hope that helped, made sense, resonated. I probably beat that to a pulp, but that's okay. We're going to move to the water signs reading in a second, and then we'll do the full channel. And I'm going to hang out and drink water and say hi to everybody in between readings. Makes so much sense. Glad to hear it. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. When you do the lives, do you embody the elements you channel on the way you snatch the air sign? That's funny. I get no, but some of that might show up as a sign or synchronistically or for fun from spirit, you know, too, is what I'm getting. So it's not me embodying it, but it might be part of the energy of the reading for you guys. Resonating so much. Perfection. Glad to hear it. Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. Man, I am feeling it a little bit today. Well, how's it get any better than that? It seems like I'm feeling it today. Thanks for promoting meditations. Found one for me. Perfect. So glad to hear it. You are welcome. I'm glad it got to you. Dang, Spirit really told me to let that man go. Sure did. If that's how it resonated for you. At least for now, you know. It's funny because sometimes we start living our own story per se, and people come. I'm not saying this to get you to do this just to bring this person back, by the way, but sometimes it's funny how we start living our own stories and people come crawling back. And it's kind of our job at that point to discern, is this for us or not in our own story? And usually it's probably not, is what I'd say, unless that person is completely transformed. It's going to be a whole different energy between you two. But you have to discern. So I'll let you go on your journey. I'm going to trust you to make the right choices for you. That's a yes. I get a yes for you on that. Casey Lay, they said they want me to focus on my business. I got a yes. Wait, did you change your username and is that emoji, or did I make you a moderator and I don't remember you? Oh, Casey Lay Reagan. Yes, I remember you now. Hi. Okay. Sorry, it's been a while. I remember now. But you're welcome. Okay. Yeah, you might have been here and I just haven't seen you recently, but hi. It took me a second to be like, because I saw the moderator symbol next to your username. I'm like, I don't remember seeing you lately as a moderator, but okay, cool. Oh, okay. No worries at all. That's cool. No pressure on the moderator thing anyways. I'm going to wait 1 second, then we'll start the water signs reading. Okay, time to start. Whoop, there it goes. If you have a water sign, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this is meant to be for you when you see it. So I'm going to channel my spirit guides, the angels, and source for you, work with my intuition on this, see what would be that's good to come through for you, what would help you out the most, and what's going to make the difference for you today. So let me see what comes through for you. For starters, show me a singing bowl. So some sound healing could be important for at least some of you right now, and it's another avenue for healing. And right now, Spirit's like, let's rope this in. For most of you, if you don't like sound healing, well, a couple things. One, okay, you can just circle back to it another time, or you don't have to just buy this outright right now. But the other thing they said was like tough, but that's probably going to be like 2 of you. But right now, like sound healing is almost like maybe even a key for some of you, or just a really helpful thing to rope in. So I would be doing that, whether it's for yourself or for others, or putting something on YouTube or going to sound baths. It's just like something else Spirit's trying to hand to you that you might be neglecting as another tool for you in your tool belt that could help you and to others. So try it out is what I'm getting to say to you, whether it's you doing it or you're receiving it or whatever you feel drawn to with that, but it's important for some reason. I do get that you're vibrating out of your old reality right now, which is freaking amazing. You're hitting a new reality and a higher one. And you might be leaving a lot of things behind with that, but you're going to love it, is what I'm hearing. Because it could be things you're leaving behind that were icky or you didn't like them. Or you're finally able to like breathe a bit more in your reality because you vibrated to a higher plane of existence. And you know, that can change everything around you when you rework your engine to change your vibration like that consistently and be at a whole new baseline. And so much more is possible as you raise your frequency. And in some ways, that's where possibilities reside, is in higher frequency, typically. Because then you're not coming from the same old 3D place. You're vibrating high, you're opening doors for the highest good, and you're working with spirit on everything to create the highest and best, is what I'm getting to say, at least at a certain level. So, and you're getting there if you're not already there, so kudos to you. Some of you already are there. This is just confirmation for you, and you're just like, yeah, this is my everyday, which is perfect. It's a place of power to be in for you for the highest good. You being in your power, at least. I do feel like in this new reality, things will be easier, or the possibility for ease is going to be there more, at least. And I just get that there's going to be a bit more flow, because sometimes when you're in, at least what I'm getting shown right now, sometimes when you're in the turbulence of that transformation or transition to the higher plane of existence, you almost hit, depending on where you're at with it, a little bit of turbulence and just like shedding or like purging, or you kind of just have to change you, you know, to get there, because you're a whole different you up here than you were down here. And it might seem a bit more difficult, but it's not, are the words I'm hearing. So kind of interesting phrase, but you're actually going to be, what's the best way to say this? Out of the turbulence, I guess you could say, and in a bit more of a smoother plane for a while. Some of you are just going to keep going higher. They're showing me like an exponential curve, and you're just going to kind of keep rocketing up. So your trajectory is actually like up, weirdly enough, is what they're showing me. And you might hit a few more spots of turbulence yet. Maybe something else is possible where you go higher without the turbulence. I'm not going to limit you, but if it shows up, you know what's happening now, at least. And just keep going higher is what I'm getting, because Spirit has a plan for you to rocket up that fast, and it's your time to do that. And there's a reason that's happening, because you might be called to serve others on a whole new level, and you need to be at that frequency to play your role that you're meant to play for this next phase. So that's part of why that's happening as well. So stick with it, bear with it. It's leading to a great place. So next thing they're showing me is a bowling ball hitting these bowling pins, and it's still about your transformation. What's this about? I do get that you're letting go of all the people that were in your way, which is fantastic. Like, that's kind of what the bowling pins are representing. And it's not like you're going out there and hurting people, but you, like, this bowling ball is rolling over the bowling pins. The bowling ball is representing you. You're just not letting it stop you anymore. You're bowling right through and getting to the destination, the target, if you will. The I guess you could say goal. Not usually the word I use, but you know, it's the word they're showing me. And no one's stopping you, which is perfect. That's exactly what you need to do. And sometimes Spirit builds us almost like a tank in a way, energetically, where no one's stopping us. We're accomplishing our target or our goal. We're accomplishing our mission of what we're here to do. No one's stopping us. And there's nothing that can stop you. And I feel like you need that to be you. And I do get you are probably wired that way in some way, shape, or form, at least regarding something. And it's okay to embody that energy and charge ahead, and it's needed, because sometimes there's resistance to what we're here to bring to the world. Not always, but sometimes there is, and it's your job not to listen to the resistance, but to listen to spirits and your hopes and dreams and what's in your heart and soul to bring through. And who cares if someone's upset if you bring something through, if that's what Spirit's divinely guiding you to bring through? Like, they'll get over it. Or that's your lesson, is learning to not let the feelings of others stop you if there's something you have to do that Spirit's guiding you to do, because that's going to be for the highest good, and that's going to bring the change that's needed in the world. That's going to bring you to where you need to go. And again, sometimes like other people's feelings and stuff, that's their stories, that's all their stuff. And sometimes it's not even theirs. It's stories they inherited from other people, or it's judgments they inherited from other people. It has nothing to do with you or even them necessarily. And letting it stop you is just letting, it's almost like you'd be letting the 3D win, which not going to happen. If that makes sense, or you're kind of letting people's bullshit stop you when you need to kind of be doing what Spirit's guiding you to do in a certain extent with discernment, if you need to hear that. So take that as it resonates right now. I feel like this is going to apply either now or in the future, where you're going to kind of have to maybe hurt some feelings along the way with what you're building or doing, but if that's what you're guided to do, maybe those feelings were supposed to be hurts. And I'm not saying you're going out there and like calling people names or something like that. It's more like people who are jealous of what you're accomplishing, or people who are mad you're leaving them behind or whatever. And maybe they just weren't meant to be in your path in the first place, or maybe Spirit gave them a chance and they didn't do the work and they're like, okay, well, you got to go. So, which might not be sorry. They're like, no, so that wasn't the best way to say it. What's the best way to say it then? You know, it's kind of that common phrase where sometimes people are meant to be there for a season, not like your whole life. So keep that in mind. So let's see what's next here. They're showing me golf clubs again. One second. So funny enough, for the air sign, or was it for a different sign? I think it was the air signs where they had golf show up, and it was like, hey, or was it the fire signs? Oh my gosh. But there was a reading and there was golf, and they were saying like, hey, like your little moves and your little steps are just as important as like the big home run swings and leaps of faith sometimes. But for you guys, and if you have both placements, then both could apply. Like it's gonna be time for big like home run swings and leaps of faith soon, or like that's gonna be important for you. So I'd be like taking leaps of faith and like jumping when Spirit tells you to jump, within reason. You know, you don't have to like quit your job if you have nothing lined up or anything like that. But it's just going to be time for leaps of faith, and you got to trust yourself with like starting something new or restarting something, or restarting might not be the right word, excuse me. You're just trusting your leaps right now because it's time for big maneuvers is what I'm getting, or it will be soon, which is awesome. They're showing me a tank again, like a military tank. So what's up with the military tank here? It's a reminder. I already said it in another way, but I'm going to say it this way too. Don't let yourself be stopped by anyone. It's not the time to let anyone's bullshit stop you. You have to keep moving forward. That's the way, is what I'm hearing. It's very explicitly for you guys. So don't get stopped by other people's anything. Projections, judgments, bullshit, stories, feelings, etc. You know what you're doing or what you're here to do. Most of you, maybe some of you don't, but you will. And you can't be stopped. It's like imperative you don't let yourself get caught up in the webs of other people's stuff right now for some reason. Beyond all that here, we're back to bowling. And they're showing a gutter ball now in the bowling here. I think sometimes some of you have played small for other people and you have to stop, is the message. You have to stop acquiescing to other people again, or their feelings. You have to stop tiptoeing. It's time, and Spirit's gonna like really make you break that habit. If you haven't already been like breaking it, Spirit's going to make you stop intentionally throwing gutter balls to appease the people who can't throw strikes. Like it's time to own your magic, own your power, throw strikes, do well like you know you can, and just not, because if someone else hasn't done the work to get good at throwing strikes, why the heck should you not be good at throwing strikes when you did the work to throw strikes and be good, even if that person doesn't like it? Like, who cares? Like, they have every opportunity to choose and create a good life for themselves and create abundance for themselves and improve themselves so they can attract better people or romantic partnerships in their life, or learn skills in business to build a business, or learn skills to improve their jobs, to get promotion, improve at their jobs and get promotions, or learn information they need to learn to improve their lives, or learn spiritual techniques to be able to manifest better or become better people. Like, they have every opportunity, just like you, to improve their lives. So don't stop for anyone. I don't know why I'm so on this message right now and it's getting angry because you need to hear it. And if you don't have some fire behind it, you're not going to listen. So that's why it's a little bit zesty right now. And that's why you're like, geez, chill out, dude. But no, I'm not going to chill out, dude, because I'm going to throw the strike here and not throw a gutter ball. Because you don't want to hear the strike. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't the perfect way to say it, but you guys get it. Beyond all that here, they are showing you getting on this bus, but it's time to take the bus to a new opportunity. I think like some of you habitually like just do some of the same things over and over again. They're showing me like chop wood, carry water as like a way to represent this. And like, that's okay. But there are new things that are calling to you, and you have to go that direction, because you might get on the same bus every day to go to the same coffee shop to do the same work. You take the same taxi or bus home. You talk to the same Uber driver. You call the same person on the way home. You tell them the same thing about your day every day. Da 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 da. And Spirit's like, okay, well, there's this whole new thing over here. You need to take this different bus. go to this different coffee shop, do this new type of work, talk to this new person, meet this new person over here, start this whole new life, maybe even through what you're doing, or expand it at least, and really stop living the old pattern because it's kind of dead. That's what they're showing me, or it's kind of like weighing on you. It's kind of like if you hold those examples where there's people who give the talks and they're like, 1 pound is not heavy if you hold it for a minute, but if you hold it your whole life, it becomes heavy. It's kind of like the same pattern over and over again. It's getting like dull and gray and like heavy-ish, or like hard to maintain, or he just feels dull. It's kind of like dead a little bit. And Spirit's like, let's bring some new life to this. Let's breathe some new life into Spirit's saying new lifetime, go that different direction, try the new thing you're called to. It's time, even if it's way out of your comfort zone, it's going to change your life. Big or small, just try it. And get on that bus, I guess you could say, with that here. So there's at least one more thing. They show me a helicopter here. It's kind of an emergency airlift helicopter. And what's that symbolizing for you here? Some of the new paths showing up for you are the airlift out of the things you'd like to leave. And you don't see it yet because you think it needs to look a certain way potentially. But if you've been asking to like leave a certain situation, you're like, hey, I'd like to quit this issue, or I'd like to stop having this thing go on, or I'd like to leave this job. And if you keep doing the same things, probably not going to change. Maybe eventually Spirit will help you change it. But the new things you're called to are potentially that airlift out of the situation long term. Maybe it's right away, maybe it's not. But if you're willing to heed that call, you can get rescued. If you're just kind of sit in the same pattern, yeah, Spirit will get you eventually, but they're kind of like, hey, work with Spirit a little bit on this. Like, be your own best friend with this and leave your comfort zone and try new things. It's really going to help. So time to leave old patterns, I guess, is the message of that. They're done. Last thing to show me is a octopus type thing, but it was actually a Pokemon. It was Tentacool from Pokemon. So, and you can judge me for referencing Pokemon. That's okay. But with the Tentacool here, if you're familiar with Pokemon, great. If not, I'm just going to explain it so that you get the message regardless. But the typing for this Pokemon is water and poison. So what's the message for you guys here? There are certain things that people might be selling you right now, and you think it's water or it's necessary, but it's actually poison is what I'm getting. And for some of you, this is like things from a self-help community or like a self-help guru. For some of you, this is like success mindset coaches, but it's like a very 3D way of doing things when you're 5D and it's not serving you. And you have to kind of look like, okay, you might have bought the story about success. Like, is this true? Is this helping you? Is it working? What do you need to do differently to succeed? That's not what someone else sold you. I guess the example they're trying to tell me to say, and it's not like I've encountered this, but I've heard other people talking about it, is, for example, there's one girl whose TikToks I kept seeing about, and she was like and I'm not saying she was toxic, but she'd have a lot of business stuff and like money stuff and make money online stuff. And she'd talk about how other people would come to her for coaching, and those people would tell her that some other person told them to say that they were making a lot of money when they weren't, in order to get people to buy their like make money online courses, which is so not cool, right? Like, that's pretty unethical. That's pretty not like honest or authentic. That has no integrity to it. And it's like, no. And it's like things like that is something they're kind of talking about as an example. And it's not maybe all of you, I'm not saying you've even like been doing this. If you had, I would definitely examine it. I'd be like, okay, interesting. I chose this. We don't have to judge it, but what would actually be for that is good for me to choose here. How can we change this? What do I need to do and be different to change this? So I'm working in a higher way that's going to be of service to everybody. But I want to see if there are other examples, because like it's so fascinating that this is showing up. So for others of you because maybe it's not just business or success or something like that. It's the other examples they're showing me are like toxic positivity, which I don't really talk to a lot, but it's kind of like the if someone's going through a hard time, you're just like, just have a positive growth mindset. Or it's like the common thing people are making fun of it now with, I guess. Or it's like I'll tell you one thing. I remember one time, and I didn't really go this direction with it, Thankfully, I had a therapist at the time. I was like 18. I was really young, but I had a therapist at the time that kind of gave me a different perspective that helped out. Where there was like this one music career coach kind of person. Uh, and he was like, yeah, if people are negative, even if they talk negative or bad about the weather, you cut them off. Like, you don't hang out with negative people. You stay away from negative mindsets. Da, 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 da. It was really intense and also not necessarily true. And I was like, okay. I was like 18 at the time. So I was like, eh. And then I went to this therapy person. I was kind of talking about it. He's like, yeah, okay. You know, one thing to consider would be like, I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was something along the lines of like, it might be helpful as well if you're able to like relate to some people and be able to like communicate people and like be okay with them saying those things. Cause I'd like you to have like more tools in your tool belt with like navigating the world and communicating with people. Cause it's not his words. It's kind of what I'm being guided to say now, but like that person could be a really important connection and they're just having a moment, or that person could evolve into a really great person and you're just catching up at a weird time in their life, or maybe they were really looking forward to something that was going to be in sunny weather and it was raining and they're like really disappointed about it. And it might be more helpful if you're like in allowance of them having that disappointment and having that in their world instead of like judging them for it and cutting them off because they're quote unquote, they're not actually toxic, but you're judging them as toxic and is not, you know what I'm saying? So there's a ton of stuff like that out there right now with like success stuff and people who don't know what they're talking about, but say that they do in order to make money. And you don't need to listen to them because it's BS. And you kind of need to find your own way probably, or find people that resonate for you as like integritous and there and authentic and working for the highest good that are better to listen to. I'll give this as an example, but one of the things what's the best thing to say here? Because it came up to be said and intuitively I was like, but it's kind of like, one of the things that was helpful for me is, I know I reference him a lot, but I just like to give credit where credit's due. But Lee Harris came out with like a grow your business course. And it was so refreshing and helpful to see someone who's intuitive. And I had to double check intuitively, like, does Lee Harris have integrity? Yes. Okay. Who is more in their integrity like that, talk about some of like the marketing practices that are out there. Cause it was really a sigh of relief to hear like, oh, I don't need to like do it this way. I don't need to like talk about my product this way. I don't need to listen to this person who's saying I need to like instill fear in people. Not that I was doing that or trying to do that, but there's people who are like instill the fear of missing out so that they'll buy your product and stuff like that. And a lot of that is waning because people are trying it and it's not effective. And like people are kind of catching on, too. And it's going to be better that you're in your integrity and authenticity with things and genuinely helping people and maybe selling from there things that are actually going to help people and things that line up with the people's needs, instead of just like trying to get people to buy your course or else, or something like that. That makes sense. But it was a really good thing to hear. And it really helped me because I was like, oh, finally, I don't have to listen to these like freaking marketing coaches just shove weird things down my ear. Because you'll pick up on the energy of it. To me, it seems like some of them almost like get brainwashed a little bit or brainwash themselves and to be like, yeah, it's okay to do this because it's going to help people. But it's also like, is it? But if you listen to people talk about it and look at the energies behind the word or perceive it or like look at it intuitively, like people will be like, because some of it's really good, like what they're saying is good. It just doesn't line up with the energy of what they're doing, all of them. Some of them, yes. But people will talk about like being of service, showing up to be of service to your people. And you'll kind of hear that person saying it who's actually doing it. And they'll be like, oh, that's really good. And then they'll say it, but do they actually mean it? It's like, is there like congruency between the where they're coming from and what they're saying? You know what I'm saying? I don't know why I'm on this rant right now, but, maybe seek some of the people out that have integrity to help get you a good idea on things if you're a little bit screwed up on some of the things that are out there, or at least come back to yourself and be like, is this true for me? Is this the way I'd truly like to do things? Is there a better way? And manifest that with spirit or co-create that with spirits. And even if you're someone who's creating that and it wasn't there before, better that the world has that than thanks train ringing outside for confirmation. Thanks universe. Thanks synchronicity train. Thanks universe through the train. But source through the train. Why am I don't need to explain all this to you, but you get it at this point. I'd hope where it's like, you don't have to do what everyone else is doing just because they're doing it. And for some of you, I'm like preaching to the choir. For some of you, you're like falling asleep because you're like bored of me talking about business stuff. And I hope this makes sense because I'm feeling a little bit, I feel like I kind of went on my train and now I'm kind of wrapped up. So hopefully that all resonated and helped and did whatever is for thy good. Who's telling me to, are you telling me to be careful? Or are you telling other people to be careful? I don't know. I don't think I need to heed it. Cool. So hope that was helpful, resonated, whatever is for thy good. But what about the wild yam cream? Is that good stuff? You might be referring to something and I don't think I've encountered what that's referring to, but that sounds funny. I'm eating fire. Yeah. How's it getting better? Was epic. Glad to hear it, guys. I'm glad it was helpful. You're welcome. I just need to trust like what I'm intuitively guided to do and like the rants I'm channeled wise going on because it's something I'm guided to do. I'm not sure why after all this time I'm still like, yeah, I hope that helped because it's good to pay attention to the feedback and make sure it's helping too, but it is what I'm guided to say and go down as a track. So I'm glad it's landing. You're right, Prince Priestess. The rants are the best parts. Glad to hear it. Wild yam cream is supposed to balance your hormones. It's ramming on TikTok. Oh, okay. That makes more sense then. There might be better ways to do that is what I'm going to just put your way as an idea. But if it's amazing and it's helpful, awesome. Listen to yourself. Trust your body. It's always landing, scary landing. Awesome. How's it get even better? The scarier accurate, the better is my intention. I would like to lean into that as much as I can. And I don't care if I just freak everybody out. I'd love to do that. I don't have them. I'm so sorry. That was just something I'm getting. There might be other better ways and maybe it's helpful, but there might also be other better ways to help out in the future that show up, like nutrition wise. And I'm not a licensed physician. So, you know, it's almost like the more you're yourself, the more people show up. Interesting. I'm going to have to sit with that because that seems true. I'm going to start doing that more intentionally. How's it get bad? And then that. Well, anyways, it is time for the full channel mode session, so that'll be fun. I hope you know and feel how much clarity you bring us. Thank you, Nicole. You dig my authenticity. Thank you. No, you're not. Yeah, no, I get it. Prince Priestess. You're so on with that, you know, just to say that. Love it, Honeycomb Hideout. Thanks, Prince Priestess. You're welcome, Kelly Orlando Lover. I think I also, it's not that I forget this, and I've grown more accustomed to it, but, you know, especially those of you who show up for the live all the time, and I'm sure some of you who are newer too, are just like awesome and you get it and you get me, you get what I'm doing here. I don't know why sometimes I'm expecting people to be like, no, and it's okay if they do too. And I definitely need to not silence myself for those people as I was ranting about earlier. But I always forget that you guys are like cool. And I don't forget it, but you always remind me about it too. Does that make more sense? Like sometimes it just, maybe I get in my head about what I'm saying sometimes. And I'm like, oh, this is, but it might even just be something else I'm picking up on that's not even mine. But don't judge me for playing Pokemon. We're around the same age. Having played Pokemon too. Oh my God, you're so right though. Sometimes it's like I say it and I pick up on an energy from the audience that's something akin to, is it judgment I'm feeling? Sometimes it's judgment and it might just be something else, you know, that I'm picking up on as well energetically from you guys. That's why I kind of like talk to that sometimes. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Totally. Oh, thank you, Honeycomb Hideout. I appreciate you. While we're here, I'm feeling the love. So I love you guys. I appreciate, so many of you guys so much, and it's so good to get to channel for you guys and show up and be reminded how like awesome you guys are, and also probably how authentic you guys are. At least a lot of you in the group. And if you feel like I said that and you're like, oh, I don't know if that's me, like don't judge yourself. Like that's a great awareness to have and to celebrate and to realize so that you can move towards that if you'd like to, if that feels like a good move for you right now. Because we have these defense mechanisms. Some, maybe not us, all of us. Who's we? That's another pet peeve I've had that is not something you need to freak out about if you've done it, because I do it too, where sometimes I'd read like a self-help book. I'm going a direction they don't want me to go. Okay, take a step back. I'll talk about it later. But I'm sure that didn't apply to all of us. The way I was saying it is what I'm saying. But sometimes for certain people, that's a defense mechanism, the inauthenticity, and it's to survive, maybe even childhood, but it's something you can let go of now, or if it's the right time for you to let go of it. So what I'm trying to say is I'm not here to judge you, and you don't need to judge you, and it's okay. But I would recommend, and my aim for me, if I'm not already there, is just moving further into or maintaining and increasing, if that makes sense, authenticity, So I'm going to start the full channel mode session. Oh, thanks, Abundance Love Joy. Yeah, how's it getting any better than that? I'm really feeling the heart energy right now. Thank you. I don't think I'm going to say this right. Lorichka. Oh, fascinating question you just asked. I love Blue's Clues, SpongeBob, and Pokemon. Heck yeah. SpongeBob was definitely, I would probably still go back and watch old SpongeBob. I haven't in a while, but some of my favorite times, well, what's the best way to say this? I've had great experiences with people who you could just go back and forth with SpongeBob jokes. It's always a good time, it seems. Do animals have spirit guides? Here's a weird answer. What I'm initially getting is yes, but no, but yes. It's a little bit different perhaps in how it operates for us, but it is there. Like, they do have divine guidance. There are animals who are like really tuned in and like in tune and intuitive. And it's like spirit guides, but it's something different is the way I'm getting to describe it. But it's the same concepts, but it's more like they're tuned into spirit and spirit is telling them things. Does that make sense? So kind of the same, but not really. Old SpongeBob, new SpongeBob. I haven't seen a lot of new SpongeBob, but from what I've seen, I probably would feel the same way about it personally, as far as like what I enjoyed. Yeah, no, that is fascinating. Oh my God. Old Spange. Prince Priestess, your comments always crack me up. I still quote the time and you might have seen it online, or maybe you're just cool like that, but you're cool like that either way. But I'm still laughing about the time you showed up and I was wearing a tank top and you're like, get strong, like STRONK. Like, I still joke about that in my life, but you're welcome, S7. So they've been telling me to start the full channel mode here. I'm gonna probably drink more water. As a forever animal person, I can confirm. There you go. So this full channel mode session is going to be about moving away from the old desires. They're showing me a glass of wine with this before we start out. And if you're new here, I'm going to explain a little bit about full channel mode. And if you've been here, you're probably just going to like hang out for a second while I talk about full channel mode. So I'm guessing that's one of the things they're going to be talking about, though it doesn't limit them. They might go into a bunch of other different topics. Usually this goes on for about 20 minutes or so for the lives. I do have longer ones that I post elsewhere, but we'll talk about that later. And for full channel mode, pretty much I'm going to close my eyes and my spirit guides, the angels and source, are going to channel through me directly and guide me through it simultaneously, this channeling experience. I'm saying a little bit too much, so let's move along. But some of the benefits of it are there's an energetic transmission from source that does work for the highest good for you, essentially. So it can create shifts and changes in your life. It can be like an energy healing session for the highest good. It can facilitate upgrades. I'm not going to limit it. It can do more, but it's meant to do what's for the highest good for it to do for you. And something about the frequency or the transmission or whatever it is about channeling, it also tends to open up people's third eyes and intuition when they listen to it and also, or watch it or whatever, or even read it. And potentially also, if you're meant to channel, it opens up your channeling as well, or can. And I don't want to limit it. What else is possible with full channel mode and what it can do for the highest good. But that's at least a starting place and a lot of what it can do for a beginning understanding of it, if you're newer to it. And if you're familiar with it, you kind of know somewhat what you're getting yourself into when you listen to these, or you'll see it in the future. And we're just going to start. So give me 1 second and they will start. And usually they do a little laugh and they say welcome, welcome, and then they begin. So just so you know. Welcome to today's channeled message. And moving on from the old desires is the theme you are in this week, but also in the road ahead. For so much of what you have been trained to enjoy, trained to move towards, is not actually what you desire. And some of you have done this work and you know what we are speaking about, and you are already on the road ahead of this a little bit, where you are moving towards what you truly desire and what your soul would like to bring in. And we are not saying this to get you to second guess yourself or to mind fuck yourself out of what you're trying to move towards. But just sit with the energies with us for a second and sit with the concept of what we're saying. I know you're getting the energies you need as you listen, so this will make sense on the road ahead if it doesn't make sense now. But you are being rewired for a new path and for your true desires, for your soul's desires, and for what you signed up for. Oftentimes, earlier desires, such as in childhood or growing up, are true to the soul. However, you do not always realize earlier on, unless you are aware or functioning from consciousness or from a higher plane of awareness, when the desires of this world or other people begin to override the stories or true desires of the soul in your world. For example, as a kid, you might have had a desire or dream to be a rock star, or to be on center stage, or to be a star and shine for other people, or shine in the limelight. And that was true to you, and that could have showed up just as you singing into a toy microphone, or you always singing as you went around the house, or always dreaming about being on stage in a play or other fashion. But then as you go along, you might be sold a story that what you actually desire is fame, or what you actually desire is money. And those things are important on the planet and not to be denigrated necessarily, for they're an important part of how your society functions at this time. You would not go to a native individual thousands of years ago and say, oh, you can't have buffalo, you are poor, you can't eat that buffalo, you poor person, only the rich people can eat the buffalo. No, as a community, you would all eat the buffalo. You would all partake in what you needed to survive. And telling someone not to have money in today's society is a bit like telling a native person not to have food, not to have shelter, not to have safety, not to have relationships or community in their life back in the day. Not saying that money replaces all of those things, but if that has become your system to survive, to thrive, to live a life you'd like to leave, you bet your butt you should probably be having some of that, unless you decide to go off grid and not worry about that anymore. So there's nothing wrong with money, and we're not saying this to judge money, just for those of you who might already have some prejudgment or some mental predisposition based on your stories or what's been handed to you to judge having money. We just desire you to not go further down that rabbit hole so you can have a better life for yourself, even through having money, if that's what it takes. However, if your soul desired to be on stage and to be a voice for others and to help people through being on stage, but then society sold you needed to be famous, or you should desire to be famous, you might instead have that dream be co-opted to be something akin to you being famous. So instead of focusing on the essence of what your desire was, you were locked into a story of what it had to be or what you had to strive for. And you looked at all the people who had that, and you looked at all their desires, potentially energetically, and you imbibed all of that, and you might have decided you should become like them. But maybe you were meant to break the cycle. Maybe you were meant to bring something new to that world. Maybe your true dream is trying to birth again because you're ready for it and you've done the healing to receive it. And you're ready to move in the direction that's authentic to your soul, which, by the way, could include money. and fame as part of the picture with the impact you are meant to have through your dream. But the focus won't be on the things that are not true to you as a being that is what you desire. For example, fame may be part of the picture, and if you desire it, nothing wrong with that either. But your actual soul's desire is to be received and to be in the limelight and allow people to see you and to have an impact through that and to be an example for others. So what we are talking about when we talk about walking away from the old desires is seeing the truth inherent within it and underneath it, seeing what's yours and what's someone else's, and moving towards what you know is truly for you, whether that involves money or not, whether that involves fame or not. Because if you have what you truly desire, you can have it all. If you move towards what you truly desire first, you can then also bring in all the things around it that you would like to have without sacrificing your true core desires or dreams. So if you desire to be on stage singing, you do not need to manifest fame. You need to manifest being on stage singing and preparing for that. And if fame is meant to be around that, it will be. But moving towards the core of what you desire is going to be best. How do you know what's for you? Well, there are a number of ways. If you channel, you could ask your soul or spirit team, what would be the best dream for me to move towards? And that will be easy for you. You've probably already been receiving those messages or have been moving towards it. For others of you, you can pick up on the energies of what you desire. And you can feel what feels true to you as something you desire. Or you can feel the lightness of how something will turn out if you head that way, if you feel into it. Or ask what it will be like if it shows up for you. And get that energy. Or you will feel in your bones and soul and core that this is what you were meant to do as you move towards it. And many of you know what we speak about. While this might sound a bit amorphous to some of you who are newer, or who are not yet at the point where your specific intuition is not yet there, keep this in mind, our words, this channel, and don't overthink it right now. For you, just keep heading towards what you think is best and don't judge it. And as your intuition comes online more as it's meant to, as you move that direction, if you feel called to it, you can know all the more further on in your journey. So you do not have to judge your journey now. It's playing out exactly as it's meant to for many of you, or even better for some. Even if some of you are having a hard time moving intuitively, which will not be all of you. Some of you are very honed in, you know what you're about. You can trust you're still getting the lessons or experiences you need for your future, especially if you are intending to follow your dreams or move in a direction that's right for you. But don't let society talk you out of what you truly desire, even if it is a more peaceful world, a more peaceful you, even if it's just you feeling okay and loving your life every day, even if it is just joy, even if it is fame, even if it is money. There's something in that for you. It's a possibility for you. So what do you truly desire? And how can you let go of the stories other people have sold you that you can't have that, or that you have to have something else, or that you're meant for something else besides what you desire? And yes, in some instances in that last one, you are. But also, what if you can have it all to a certain extent, to a certain realm of meaning around what we are saying? What if you can have things you desire and what you are meant for? You can choose both. One does not necessarily prohibit the other. But the thing about today's energies and the energies going forward is that a lot of false desires are leaving. A lot of things you've been sold as something you should desire, those things are no longer to be things you desire at the core. And part of this message is to get you to be aware that as those paradigms and stories leave, you have freedom and you have clarity. And you can create what you desire from there. So many people have wasted time, resources, efforts to create something that wasn't for them at the core, or didn't give them what they desired to create. But they got a great lesson in that. They learned what was for them, even if they had to learn what was not for them. So for those of you who have that intuition honed in, have that clarity, know what you desire, you no longer need to let that be you, where you move towards the wrong thing, thinking you'll get a results, when you could just ask for that results. Or you could just go where your soul is calling you to go, where you can have it all. And while this might sound meandering to some of you, or many of you, pay attention to the energy. Because you will feel an energy of desire swell up as you listen, but you're also going to receive clarity on what you don't desire intuitively, or you will following this channel in the days, months, and weeks ahead, because it will be shown to you more in your face what's not yours to have. And we don't mean that as in a carrot dangled in front of your face cruelly, but more in essence, what doesn't line up with what you truly desire. So let's do one exercise. Literally just sit and say to spirits, Spirit, bring me what I truly desire. Spirit, lead me to what I truly desire. Spirits, ensure I am free from heading to the things that are not for me, that would be in the way of what I truly desire. And if you'd like to go on a journey with us, visualize a path ahead of white lights. And this is clearing your path to your desires. You may see selenite lining it to clear the energies, or it may show up intuitively to you in a different way, such as in a rainbow. Let it show up how it does. But see that path to your desires shorten in length. In essence, your desires are closer to you. And see that path shorten up until your desires are right next to you. You can feel their energies. You can feel what it will be like to have them. And step into your desires, your true desires, and that energy. And once again, get a sense of what it would be like to have them. This is your soul's desires. For many of you, for all of you. We did not have you manifest desires that were not right for you with this. We decided to bring in the energy of more what you truly desired for this exercise. But now that you know this energy, you can move towards it more easily. You can let that visual go. It was a short one. But the intention was shorten the path to your desires, clear the path to your desires, clear the bullshit from your path to your desires, and get a sense of your desires so that when they start to show up, you know what they are. That is our message. This transmission has, of course, been opening your desires, but also has been helping you shed everything in the way. Of your desires. So we'll leave you there. You are all headed in the correct directions overall. It is very difficult for you to mess up this lifetime. We'll say it again. It is very difficult for you to mess up this lifetime. There's a lot of divine guidance for this crowd. There's a lot of divine orchestration. And even your mistakes are leading you to your best path in many instances. Now, do not try to intentionally mess things up. That's not what we are saying. But sometimes even your mistakes that you would judge as mistakes on a human level are divine orchestration at play and are leading you to your best path. So we say that to get you to let go a little bit and to quit fearing that you're going to mess up your desires. For you can always manifest them again. You can always change directions. You can always pivot. You can always create. And create you will. So we are signing out for now. We leave you there. And we will see you in the future. Farewell for now. All right. Perfect, abundance, love, joy. Holy moly, heck yeah. You're welcome. Let's go higher. Heck yeah, you're welcome. They were very sweary today. I loved it. They do that. It's funny. Thank you, Lizette. You're welcome. Glad to hear it. Seems like this was a great one for you guys. Beautiful, gave me the chills. So glad to hear it. You're welcome. So much resonated. Perfect. Glad to hear it. That was truly one of the best, most grounded messages, Brandon. Awesome. How's it get even better than that? I'm so glad to hear it. I do feel like my channeling is getting better. I've noticed an uptick recently, I guess with both forms of like when I'm doing the channeled intuitive readings, but also like the full channel mode. So I'm really excited about that. I feel like that's going to help you guys out more, and it's just where I'd like to go as well. So I'm glad that it's showing. Ooh, very cool, Lainey. How does it feel? I'm not sure if it feels different, but it just feels better. I don't know how to describe it. What a deep, clear message and connection. Perfect. So glad to hear it. So maybe I don't have the words to describe it. Love that the messages come out faster, less time consuming for you. Heck yeah. Yeah. Feel stronger in my end. Yeah, that's definitely one of the side effects or results of it. Tell us more about your Let's Go Higher. Oh, tell me. Oh. How it is for me? Better. No, for sure. Brandon, your work has shifted my entire life since buying the Root Chakra Daily and membership. That means so much. I'm so happy to hear it. That's part of why I do it. And that's amazing. So thank you for telling me. That's exactly a big part of the aim, exactly a big part of what I'm aiming to do with it, or at least part of it. All of it for the highest good, of course, in the best ways. And the only reason I say part of what I'm aiming to do with it is because I don't want to limit it, but, oh, cool, Heidi. That works. However it shows up is perfect, is what I'd say. You're so welcome. Thank you. So someone asked me to talk about my Let's Go. Is the yellow package coming soon? Yes, but I'll let you know when it's ready. There's a lot on the plates. Oh, thank you, Prince Priestess. Yeah, so the Let's Go Higher membership, that's someone was asking about it as well. That's on my website or in my link in bio. You can check it out as well. And that's, so there's a lot that is included with that. Now, there's like we just did the full channel mode message, there's like a 45 minute to hour plus long one I do every month for both tiers of the membership. There's gold and silver tier. There's also channel guided meditation that I facilitate every month for the gold level. And sometimes I have that as a one-off for sale outside of it as well, but it's always going to be available at no additional cost in the gold level membership. There's also a live thing we just started doing. So I go live once a month, and a lot of it's like Q and Channel Day, like people pre-submit questions and I channel on the answers. And it's meant to be for like everyone who shows up, you know, like it might be like one person's asking the question, but everyone's benefiting, or most people at least are benefiting from like what's coming through regarding that and how it might pertain to them. Because it's all kind of intuitively led. Like I'm guided to what questions to answer, which ones to do. And then we do a full channel mode there. That's briefer. We also do channeled like reading. That's a deep dive on the month ahead. And that's usually about an hour long as well as a video, or maybe give or take, you know, a little bit, but and then you get huge discounts on like one-on-one readings, classes with me, everything else. So that's a lot of what you get with that. And you can check that out on my link in bio or website if you're drawn to it. And that's a great way to go deeper with my work and ensure you're getting consistent content from me. Not that I try to be consistent elsewhere. Like I'm here live almost every Sunday, unless I can't make it for some reason. And I try to be more consistent on social media, but you're pretty much guaranteed to get that content there. And if there's some delays, like, yeah, that's different. But usually there aren't any delays anymore with the membership content. So is it a Zoom meeting? It's actually a live feature inside of my website through the platform I use in the membership that you can join the meeting. And you get replays of each live too if you can't make it. So silver is so incredibly worthwhile and gold is truly fantastic. Thank you so much, Abundance Love Joy. Appreciate the shout out. Very business, much gold star. Yes. Recordings in the gold membership are staples in my weekly energy routines. That means a lot. I'm so glad to hear it. And yeah, all the way. Also, you get like access to the whole library of each month. So if you join now, you have like 17 full channel mode sessions, 17 channel guided. Like there's so much that's building up in there over time. So you get a lot when you join. Do you do this all yourself, or do you have people help you with some of your stuff? Right now, it's just me and my spirit team. And yeah, I totally understand how you're saying you're trying to do your projects. It's a lot. I get it. That's part of my thing right now is like, what can I handle on a weekly basis and monthly basis? And I'm holding it down, but I understand. Right now, it's just me getting it all together. So, and you know, you hone your process over time to make it a bit less time consuming, and you kind of have to not cut corners, but look at what matters and focus on those things. Cause it's kind of like, who cares if my cover photo for, you know, the monthly channel messages in the month ahead for the membership isn't super fancy. It's like, that's not why they're there usually. But oh, cool. Put a dragon as your phone background. The last membership live. Perfect. That's a great intention. Thank you, lady. Is it the first of the month or 30 days from when you sign up? So the channel messages so for the membership, channel messages the month ahead, I put it up around the first of every month, and the additions, like the, like the channel guided meditations and full channel mode, it's like the 15th of every month is usually when I upload that, or around then. I'm not sure if that's what you were asking. You might have asked something else. But all the content's available. That's there right when you sign up. Oh, you mean payment? I think there might be some offers, like for example, if you buy a certain, like the red package, there might be like a, hey, try the membership for 30 days thing because you spend money. And, but right now it's like you'll pay right away. I think you have to pay right away once you sign up, but then after every 30 days or so, you're going to get the payment refresh. It's not the first of every month. Sorry. Yeah, that's it. I should probably clarify that on my website. So thanks for asking. So glad to hear it, Cowtipa. That's awesome. So yeah, and so to the people who took them who are part of the membership, so glad to hear it's awesome for you, and thank you for shouting it out live, because that's awesome. And like I so appreciate that, and I'm so glad you're getting great things out of it. To the people who are drawn to it, I'd love to see you there. And, you know, do what you're drawn to do and what's you're intuitively guided to do. I'll trust you 100%, but no pressure on that either. Oh, super cool. Pay attention then, first of every month. So it should be like whenever you sign up, it's the payment every month will be 30 days from them. Is how it works in my system, at least. Oh, thank you, Prince Priestess. You're right. I do deserve all my flowers. I will receive them. Cool. Yeah, you're welcome. I hope that clarifies it. And you know, if anyone's interested in any of my other offerings, that's all on my website or my link in bio. You can see a lot in both those places with what's going on with me. And other than that, you know, I guess I have classes coming up. They're kind of like, yeah, that's probably enough for promoting for right now for me. I do have some energy healing classes and an intro to channeling class coming up in the next couple weeks here. So if you're drawn to that, you can check that out. But otherwise, no worries here. And the next one's the 4 Angelic Fires, which is I'm super excited about. But you can look on my website for more info. You're so right, Prince Priestess. I need to remember that. Your energy and integrity comes through too. I appreciate that. Have I done the full channel mode yet? Yes, for the live, we just kind of finished that. So unless there are any technical difficulties, it will be up on YouTube. Thank you, Prince Priestess. That is reassuring and it means a lot. And I definitely need to remember that as I'm talking. But hopefully, yeah, this will be on YouTube, the whole live, probably Tuesday or Wednesday. And, oh yeah, thank you, Crystal Kelly Music. I appreciate it. That means a lot too. That you tipped me. That means a lot. I forgot what I was saying. But anyways, yeah, live should be available on YouTube Tuesday or Wednesday as the replay, barring as long as TikTok doesn't mess up the replay. 'Cause sometimes I can't download it for whatever reason, and it's a pain in the butt. But thank you, Marina. I love you guys too, and I so appreciate you guys. Thanks, Priestess. You're so right. How's it get even better than that? I appreciate it, guys. And thanks for the compliments. Thank you for telling me what you're perceiving. You're welcome, Amber. So glad to hear it. And yeah, I'll be back next Sunday with this, unless something else comes up. But I think we're done with today's live so far. So if you didn't catch all of it, it'll be on YouTube in a couple days. You can follow my YouTube through my either link in bio or on my TikTok profile. There should be a link to it through the little Instagram button. And it looks like Instagram, but then it gives you a link to Instagram and YouTube. And yeah, I guess that's it, unless I need to say anything else. You're welcome, Carlene. So glad to hear it. So glad to hear it, Alyssa. You're welcome. I'm so glad that you got what you needed to hear. Bread and roses. Oh, probably gluten-free bread and roses. You're welcome, Heather. Destiny, so good to see you. You're welcome. I hope you have a great week too. So another big shout out and thank you to any moderators, all the moderators who show up whenever you show up and help out whenever you show up and help out. No pressure on that, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for any help you or anyone else in chat's giving. And if you just showed up at the end and you're like, I didn't help at all, still thank you. Thanks for being here. And yeah, I guess that's it. I would like to say thanks to the moderators. Absolutely. See you later, Honeycomb Hideout. So good to see you. All right, guys. I love ya. I'm wishing you well, and I guess I'm out of here for now, okay? Y'all take care.